try to silence the truth we shout, but we're still here, we're still calling out. Corruption hides behind a badger name. We light the fire, expose the shame. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. The stories echo, the pain runs deep. For stolen lives we can't just weep. Elected power, but their hearts are cold. We'll bring the truth, let it be told. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for heroes, undo the harm. Calling out corruption, we'll stand tall for justice and truth, we'll risk it all. My life mattered is the cry we sing. Together we rise, let freedom ring.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Friday Night Lies. We are back with our episode number 7. And we have a barking Doberman in the background because my son is outside talking to the neighbor and he thinks he's supposed to be out there. So I apologize if you hear the distant barking of a 90-pound Doberman. The new therapy puppy, emotional support animal, Tanner, is sound asleep. So we'll see how long that lasts. But it is Friday night, so anything goes, right? So welcome aboard tonight. It's great to be back with you all. And I just said this last night when we met last night for calling out corruption, and we talked about everything that's been going on the last 2 weeks. And I said once again, will we go a day without something happening? And we didn't. I don't know that we made it. We didn't make it a full 24 hours. Isn't that amazing? So I thought it would be fun tonight. And welcome, everyone. Hi, Paula. Thanks for joining. Thanks. Great to see you again. I messed up the song tonight, though. I'll play it on the outro because I forgot to turn off the countdown music that goes with the 30 seconds. I'm still, learning StreamYard. Every time I live stream, I learn something new, or I forget to do something I was supposed to do. So this time I for the first time forgot to turn off that. So I'm like, what is that weird noise in the background? So sorry about that, guys. But welcome tonight to Friday Night Lives, where we're going to wrap up the testimony of Brian Albert with a barking Doberman serenading us in the background for a little while. And then we're going to start with see how far we get with Brian Albert Jr. and see how that goes. So first, I just want to do a little something to kind of help us all get into the mood a little bit, and also maybe feel not so stressed. So let me bring something up here for you, because this case is stressful, isn't it? You just can't make this stuff up. You just can't. So let's see what we can come up with here for you. Hang on a second. I'm going to bring something up. Now, one of the times I shared this, I have permission to share this, but it did not work. So I want to try it and just see what happens tonight. I hope it does, because I really get a kick out of it. So, all right, let's see what happens here. Okay, well, give me a second now. I got to go back and see if I can get it to play. All right. Well, I guess I can't get it to play. I'll try later when we take our stretch break. I want to play a little Auntie-Deb for you, but I had it pulled up, and now for some reason it's just not there anymore. So I'll find it later, because it's fun, and I kind of wanted to show it to you. And I'm probably going to have to put the Doberman in my son's room while my son's outside, because he is just not going to stop barking, and it will give me a major headache. So it's just going to be one of those nights. I can tell already. It's been one of those days, right? So why not have it be one of those nights? So anyway, so where do we start, right? So many things going on. And here we're supposed to be in this lull, this break between trial 1.0 and trial 2.0, with the exception, there'll always be a little bit, but this case is going to go down in history, right? Right, justice seekers? There's just no doubt. It's just too crazy. Yeah, Cat love dogs. I love dogs too, but I'll tell you, when this Doberman gets on a roll because Zach's outside and he can't be with him, he doesn't quit. Cookies, treats, even coming in here and laying down by me. No, he wants nothing to do with it. So I'll probably have to get up here in a second when I'll start the video, and then I'll have to put him in my son's room, which is on the other side of the house. So hopefully we won't hear him. Hey, Kathy, great to see you. You've been on a vacation. I know my friend Kathy has COVID, everyone. Let's send her out some love and hugs. Welcome, Hawkeye MCAT. Great to see you. Yeah, he wants to be by Zach. He is Zach's dog through and through. He is his therapy dog, and he wants to be near his side 24/7. It's really impressive how we've been able to train him. But what's not impressive is when I'm home and Zach is outside with the neighbor, because then I end up with a migraine. I already took a Tylenol expecting that this was going to happen. So anyway, but yes, Kathy, welcome back. You were on a vacation, and we haven't seen you in a while, and now we're so sorry you have COVID. This stinks. I hope you're feeling better a little bit, at least tonight. Welcome, Sherry D. Great to see you. It's good to be back with everyone on a Friday night. Yes, and ADHD in the making, aren't we all? At least a little bit, right? Everybody has a little bit on board. There's no doubt. It's just human nature. So I'm going to get Brian Albert going so I can go put the Doberman in my son's room so that we don't all end up with a migraine. But it's good to see Paula back, and all of you. Thank you so much. I know Julie's going to join us at one point. Julie has been doing some experimenting in her yard, and we showed a little bit of it last night. It was impressive what she was willing to do and the cold she was willing to be in for Karen. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and get Brian Albert up, because we've had it's taken us 3 Friday Night Lives to get through him, because we have so much to say about him and we had so much to call out, but we're almost done with him. And then we get to move on to Brian Albert Jr. and Caitlyn tonight. So I hope we can get all 3 taken care of. So let's pop up here and I'll put him on and get him started so I can go make the Doberman go lay down and be quiet for a little bit. So let's get back into it. Okay, so we're here where we left off. Just so you know, is we ended perfectly. There was a lunch break, so we're right back after the lunch break. So I'm going to get this started, and I'm going to go give him his blankie and a treat, and I'll be right back. And just for sake, let me know that you can hear this. So I'm going to start it, and if somebody just types in the chat box for me, yes, we can hear it. That would be great. I always like to make sure that
I didn't know anything about it.
Knew nothing about it?
No.
Okay. Let me ask a different question. This is going to dovetail into an earlier conversation you and I had concerning a statement that you gave to in June of 2023 to the other hearing. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm fumbling the language a little bit, but you understand the hearing that I'm talking about.
Yes.
You had indicated a little bit earlier in my questioning that you did not recall saying something to the effect of, yeah, it's only possible that it was me who answered the phone. You remember saying that? That you didn't recall that?
Yes.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Mr. Albert, there's a highlighted portion of that transcript. If you just take a look at that, and when you're finished reviewing it, just look up at me and let me know.
Yes, I get it.
May I approach, Your Honor? Yes. Thank you. Mr. Albert, did that refresh your recollection as to the colloquy that you had with someone questioning you about this issue in June of 2023?
Yes.
And in fact, you testified as follows. Question, can you just but then you?
Objection, Your Honor, as far as the reading.
As far as what?
Reading from the transcript, he's asked him if his memory is refreshed.
All right, so go ahead and ask him a question. Don't read from the transcript.
Did you in fact say in answer to the question, if it's not your wife and it's not your dog, who else is it possible on earth to answer this phone? Answer, yeah, it's only possible that it's me. Did you say that?
Yes.
Just before the break, I was asking you about those, as you indicated, many phone calls that you traded between and among your family members and friends, including Brian Higgins. Do you recall that?
Yes.
Were those many calls an effort to get your stories straight about how you were going to, what statements you were going to give to law enforcement, and how are you going to testify if this case ever went to trial?
No, absolutely not.
Were those calls, or those many calls, an effort to coordinate narratives between you and your friends and your family?
No.
Were those many calls in any way discussing the fact of creating a story of mysterious butt dials?
Objection.
Sustained.
Everyone, moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have nothing further.
Okay. Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
You were asked some questions about the week prior to being at the waterfall. At some point, you were at the hillside, correct?
Yes.
You were there with friends and family, is that correct?
Yes.
You weren't specifically there with either Mr. O'Keefe or the defendant, correct?
No, I was not.
And same with respect to the waterfall on January 28th, you were there with friends and family, is that correct?
Yes.
You weren't specifically there with Mr. O'Keefe or the defendant, correct?
No, they came unrelated to anything I was doing.
And you were shown some video from the waterfall from January 28th in which you were speaking at a sort of section of the table, correct?
Yes.
And was the defendant the only person in that section of the table?
No.
There were other people around her, behind her, is that correct?
Yes, it looked like there were other people at the table as well as situated right behind where she was sitting.
And those other people around her, behind her, those are people that you knew far better on January 28th than the defendant?
Yes, those are my relatives and friends, and that's why I was at that location.
You were asked some questions about going over to Ms. McCabe's house later on in the afternoon of the 29th, correct?
Yes.
Why did you go over there?
I went to Jen's house because she's my sister-in-law. She was going through an awful time that morning, as we all were. And I wanted to be there to comfort her if she needed anything. Because we're so close, I didn't want her to feel like this was too much for her to handle.
And again, how long have you known Ms. McCabe?
I've known Jen since she was probably 6 or 7 years old. She's like a sister to me.
Now, at your home on the January 28th and the January 29th, when people came back after the waterfall,
Okay. So you're so concerned about your dear, like a sister to me, Jennifer McCabe, that you don't come out of the house when you hear all the commotion, the squad cars, multiple squad cars, the EMS, the fire truck. You don't come out of the house then, but you're so concerned about your dear, sweet, almost like a sister, right? Because she's your sister-in-law, that you get together and have this family meeting at what, 7:15 a.m. And then we talked a little bit about this last night. The scene should have been secured. There should have been nobody allowed on that street because they didn't know what the heck happened to John. They could want to make it all up and say what they think happened and believe that's what happened within 20 minutes. But we know that's not how proper police investigations work. I was just reading about another one today that Julie sent me, and I was reading another one that I came across where the officers were actually saying, we have no clue when we first get to a crime scene. We don't know how it happened, who did it, who was at fault, who was involved. That's where the investigation part comes in. But we all know that Canton and the Massachusetts police didn't do a proper investigation. They automatically, like, we know Proctor said, it pinned it on the girl. Now, even if you don't believe that, even if you don't believe in anything that most of us believe, even if Karen did hit him with her car, they still would have needed to conduct a proper police investigation. They would have needed to have cordoned off the scene, secured the road, not let anybody come on that road, separate the witnesses. Nobody's going in or out of that house until they talk to the homeowner. Definitely an entire family is not showing up in their cars and being allowed to trample on a crime scene as was that who were we listening to, Julie, yesterday? I have so many names in my brain now, I can't keep them all straight. Was it Tully or it wasn't Goody? No, it must have been Tully. Trample all over the crime scene, but yet you had to use that word when you were talking about EMS and Jen and Carrie and Karen, but yet you didn't secure the scene. You allowed anybody to come and go from that house, park in the driveway, go in and out of the house. It's utterly ludicrous. And they expect us to buy this. They expect us to believe this line of crap that they've been trying to feed everybody, from day one, because they had to cover up what happened. And they started their little plotting at, 2 a.m. or whatever time, 2:15. So let's see what y'all have to say in the chat box here before we go back to him. Because I just had to point that out, because he's going to brag about how he feels so close to Jen McCabe and she is like a sister to him. Well, she is your sister-in-law after all. Let's see. What did Sherry D have to say? Oh God. Now when I see Paul doing things, I can't help it. He is signaling his online lady. Oh, right. Exactly. If you watch any of the footage back now and you see Paul O'Keefe, for those of you that weren't able to follow along with all of the updates, because we're going to once we get to Brian, we'll take a short, before we get to Brian Jr., we'll take a short break and just recap everything that happened. But one of the things that happened is that Aiden, Turtle Boy News, outed the fact that Paul O'Keefe was flirtatious with an online lady friend during the trial, and that he was giving her signals by putting his pointer finger up to his chin, and he was wearing blue because she liked him in blue. So, gag me, right? It's just like, what the heck? So Sherry, right? POK is gross. Yeah. Really, Paul, like, I personally don't give a crap what you do in your personal life, because it doesn't really affect getting justice for John or freeing Karen. But seriously, why would you want to embarrass your family? The chance of getting caught, like that during the trial, and regardless of what kind of arrangement, whether Aaron didn't know about it and she's devastated and now she's going to get divorced, or they planned this. She didn't plan it, but she knew about it because they were already separated in the house maybe, and not getting along, and maybe decided to just, you do you, I'll do me, and let's keep it on the down low. Let's keep it quiet. Well, obviously this lady friend decided not to keep it on the down low, and she gave all of their intimate little text messages to Aiden, of all people to give them to, of course, right? And then even the picture of Paul that he sent her with his shirt up. Everybody has had, private messages with their loved one, or someone they're dating, or, their boyfriend and girlfriend. And can you imagine? It's not that I feel sorry for Paul. It's just that it's just not necessary. Like, we don't care. We don't want to know about what he's doing in his personal life, because it just doesn't matter in the whole scheme of things. And it's not, it doesn't really support John O'Keefe in any way, shape, or form. So anyway, that's kind of my opinion on all of that came out this week. It's just not anything I really care about one way or the other. Sherry D, that's really gross. He mentioned Jen like a sister, considering what's been rumored about the two of them. Right. And again, rumors, because rumors can be false. As you all know, I had, little Miss Shorty Pants saying things about me on her little feeds, and none of it was true. And she's still yakking about me. Apparently, I found that out yesterday. So I don't know why I haven't paid her one bit of attention in over a month. No tweets, no emails, no nothing. I'm done trying to, get her to stop talking about me. So it's not just me. She's talking about a lot of people, because that seems to be what she loves to do right now, opposed to just live streaming good content. So there's that. So we just never know if a rumor is true or not. But the whole swingers rumor is what I know you're referring to. I'm not afraid to say it, because there's a lot of swinging communities in Florida that I have found out about since I've lived here, that casual neighbors will just like bring it up and say, oh yeah, did you hear they have another new community and so now? And it's something I don't care to participate in, and I don't have a partner, so I can't anyway. But it's to each his own. Again, like, I don't really care what they do in their personal life. We only care about getting justice for John, finding out who really killed him, and letting the free woman go free, right? So Sherry D says, pretty explosive info. Yeah. So what are we going to do? Oh, that's Truth and Transparency, right? So Lana from Truth and Transparency thinks BA was not in the house. Ford Edge was gone. So I find all this to be fascinating. That's what I mean. We're going to take a break between Brian Albert and Brian Albert Jr. because Twitter was on fire this week, and all kinds of content creators, I call them content creators because they're influencers. They may not have a live stream show, and some of them don't even go on as guests, but they definitely have, influence because they're very talented in their own way with doing videos like Flipper Joe, or so many of them that are putting together their own videos and mashing, is that what they're calling it now, where they mash up all the different testimony and show the comparisons. And there's just a lot of talented people out there right now on social media. So so we'll come back to that. Thank you for reminding me though, but there's just been so much going on out there this week. It's hard to keep track of it all. So I think I'm all caught up with you guys in the chat. Nicole was cleaning up the blood probably till 6 a.m. Yeah, hard to say, depending on how much of it there actually was. I know a head wound can bleed quite a bit. And Kathy says, thanks to Sherry D for wishing her well, and we hope you get over your COVID really soon. So Lana determined this based on iPhone data. Right. And is Lana the same one, MCAT, that was also talking about that it was possibly Matt McCabe that Googled house long to die in the cold, and that he had Jen's phone was down in the kitchen, and that he used Jen's phone. Is that the same person, or is this a different person? Because like I said, I couldn't even stay on Twitter that long because it was making my head spin. So many different people with new theories coming out and saying that they can prove it, and that they're using the data and they're using the evidence. I was just fascinated really with this week with everything. Sherry D says that North Carolina State Trooper early this evening on his show, double, triple wrap crime scene tape to secure the scene. Oh yeah. I mean, they were complaining that they couldn't secure the scene with crime scene tape because it was too windy. That is just a bunch of crap. And them saying they've never had any investigation of a death investigation in the snow. I mean, we'd have to go back and do a records request on that to see if they're telling the truth. But how is that possible? How could somebody who's been in law enforcement 17 years to 18 years, never living in Massachusetts, never have done a death investigation in the cold and the snow? But even so, then call in an agency who has, right? Call in somebody who knows what they're freaking doing. Agencies collaborate like that all the time. If one agency is weak in something and another is strong, and they'll take turns, because not every agency has a lot of death investigations. Think about some really small towns where they don't have a lot of crime like that, like homicides or even unaliving by themselves. So they may not have a really strong detective bureau or a crime, like a CSI unit. So then you call in somebody to help you. You don't just shut down the scene and walk away at what, 6:30, 6:45. I mean, that's just absurd. It makes no sense. It's completely outside of police procedure in every way, shape, or form. And they know it. They know it is. That's why them being on the stand and being all cocky like they were was really horrific for me to watch. And I'm sure anybody who's been in law enforcement could barely stand to watch that, trying to stick up for themselves and knowing that from the second they hit that scene until days later, they were constantly not following police procedure. It's so egregious. And MCAT says, agree. Oh, POK full of bad choices. Oh yeah, for sure. Julie says, I wonder if that's interesting, MCAT. I wonder if he went to talk to someone at Boston PD. Somehow Boston must have gotten a heads up to stop any BPD going to Canton. Right. Oh yeah, Gallagher. Yes, thank you. That's right. That's who was talking about that. And Sherry D says, I'll solve the Paul selfie poster. Oh yeah. So somebody grabbed that photo off of Aiden's, Turtle Boy News of Paul selfie shirtless with boxers on or whatever he was wearing in the mirror in the bathroom. I just find those to be so gross anyway. It's just laughable. And then put it on a big poster board and had it out in front of the courthouse. So, I mean, it does bring us a little comic relief, right? We have to say. So, okay, let's get back and wrap up, Brian, because we could just talk and chat in the chat box about how horrific this whole case is and just the complete botch job by the police, which had to be on purpose, because a fellow officer that I tweet with a little bit on Twitter basically said in a tweet, you can't screw this up this bad. There are no police officers that are this bad. Either they're corrupt and criminal, or if they're this bad, they get fired pretty quick on. I watched someone get let go like maybe 3 months after they got off probation because they just weren't good at it. They just weren't a natural at like thinking on their feet and making snap decisions and using what you have to use in a lot of times with your police calls is, you have to make decisions. Am I going to write a ticket today, or am I going to give them a warning? Do they need it? Do they absolutely need the ticket, or can they have the warning? I mean, these are things you have to do as you're, doing your job, and you have to do them quickly. And so I saw a lot of people come and go in those 6 months, 8 months during their first year when they would get off probation. So, there's just zero reasons there's no way they could have done this bad of a job. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's what many police officers that I've spoken to have said. So, all right, let's go back and listen to Lally's little redirect here and see what he has to say.
Did you at any point in time go into the basement area of your home?
No,
Did Brian Higgins at any time go into the basement area of your home?
not that I know of.
Did you see anyone go into the basement area of your home during the time that you were there after coming home from the waterfall?
No.
Now, you were asked some questions about your dog, Chloe, in that she wasn't great with strangers. What exactly did you mean by that?
All I meant was that she wasn't overly affectionate with strangers. She was a heavy dog. Not everybody likes dogs. So if there's going to be people at the house that don't know the dog, they might not particularly want her around them.
And were you more concerned about the people in the house that didn't know Chloe, or were you more concerned about Chloe herself?
The people in the house. Never has the dog, to my knowledge, been aggressive to anybody except for the time that there was a fight between two dogs.
Now, you were shown in Exhibit 66 that was sort of a drawing of your house. Do you recall that?
Yes.
And had you ever seen that prior to today?
No.
And do you recall specifically within the drawing or the artist rendering of your house, there were certain lights on around the garage and the front door?
I did notice that, yes.
And do you recall whether or not those lights were on when you came home from the waterfall on January 29th?
I don't recall, but oftentimes those lights are off, and sometimes the bulbs don't even work in them.
And when Ms. McCabe comes into your bedroom sometime after 6 a.m. on the 29th,
Yes.
that was
Probably not the
following
first
a day
time,
in which
right?
You woke up in New York City and went
According
to
to
a
the
funeral, is that
rumors.
correct?
Yes, I went to a funeral that morning in New York.
And that was for a fallen police officer from the New York City Police Department?
Yes, a police officer in New York that had been murdered while on duty, and that was his funeral.
And did you know that police officer whose funeral you attended?
Objection.
The objection sustained. Next question.
Now, with reference to, you then drive all the way home from New York to Massachusetts, correct?
Yes.
And you went out to a couple of different places, had a couple drinks, correct?
Yes.
And then went back to your home and went to bed sometime around 2 a.m. or so?
Yes, after 2.
And so about how long had you been asleep from the time that you dozed off to the time that Ms. McCabe comes into your bedroom that morning?
Only a few hours, probably 3-4 hours, 3.5, 4 hours.
Now, in relation
Because they
to
were doing the whole
waking up that
with
morning,
Nicole and they were
you
butt
testified
diving.
that you did not go outside, correct?
Yes.
And why not?
Initially, when I woke up and I was told what was going on out front, I looked out my window and I saw some emergency vehicles. I did not see John at that time. I came downstairs with my wife and she asked, where was John? And Jen said that he was.
Sustained. Next question.
What was your understanding of where Mr. O'Keefe was when he came downstairs?
Objection.
Ask it differently, Mr. Lally.
In reference to when you came downstairs, what was your understanding of medically what was going on outside your house?
Objection.
The objection sustained.
Was there any
Can't
reason
ask
for you to
that
go
'cause he's
outside
not a
your house?
doctor. He can't
No,
give his opinion about
was
what's
not.
going on medically.
At that time, there was no victim out in front of my house. So there was no first aid for me to give. There was nothing I could do.
You were asking questions about the sort of bulkhead in the back of your house, correct?
Yes.
Where is that bulkhead in relation to the bay windows of the kitchen that you were testifying about?
So the bulkhead door is directly under the bay windows in the kitchen. The bulkhead door opens up almost directly into the windows, obviously without hitting them, but it opens up into the front of the bay windows.
What you saw as far as that video that was shown to you, that's not what the bulkhead looked like. That's not what the door looked like at that time on January 28th or 29th, 2022.
No, those are not the doors we had.
And as far as the bulkhead was concerned, when that bulkhead was opened around that time, what, if any, kind of noise would that bulkhead make?
A loud creaking, old rusty metal sound when you opened it.
Is that something that if it was open and you were in the kitchen area, you could hear?
Yes.
Now, in reference to that bulkhead, what, if any, security or what, was it open? Was it locked? How was that left?
So the bulkhead door was shut and it was broken. So sometimes you could turn the middle thing to lock it, and sometimes it would be hard to do. But the wooden door that goes into the basement has a lock on the doorknob. That is a door that we keep locked because we don't use it.
Now, as far as from the bulkhead, you were shown in that video a gate that opens up to the front yard area of the house. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what if any other gates are located on the fence in your backyard?
So we also have a gate on the rear part of the fence. And there's also a gate on the opposite side of the house.
And the gate in the rear area of the fence, where does that lead to?
So that leads to some woods, and then eventually you'll hit some train tracks.
Now, with respect to your phone, that was something that you had upgraded prior to any notification you received from the district attorney's office or anything in relation to preserving your phone. Is that correct?
Yes.
Now, with respect to that, as far as the information contained within the phone, there are certain types of information, are you familiar with, being sort of backed up by the cloud?
Yes.
Would that include calls?
It could.
Could that also include text?
Yes.
Could that include photos?
Yes.
Could that include contacts?
Yes.
And the information that you were shown as far as certain call logs or call records, as far as you know, was that generated after that September of 2022 date?
Yes.
Now, with respect to the preservation, that was in regard to a motion the council had filed for your physical phone, correct?
Yes.
Are you also aware of a judge's order denying that repeatedly as far as them gaining access to your physical phone?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes, it was denied on multiple occasions.
I'll strike the multiple occasions.
Doesn't matter if you strike it because you don't let the jury see the transcript anyway, right?
You were asked some questions about boxing, correct?
Yes.
And the boxing that you did, that was in relation to a group associated with the Boston Police Department, is that correct?
Yes.
And when was the last time that you were involved in any kind of actual boxing match?
close to 20 years ago.
Now, with respect to some of the training that you were talking about, with respect to the Boston Police Department, you were given some training as far as defensive tactics, is that correct?
Yes.
And is that something that is standard, that is sort of given and administered to every Boston police officer?
Yes. So within the academy, you go to the defensive tactics training.
And that would include John O'Keefe, correct?
Yes.
Now, as far as your house,
It's called defense and arrest tactics training, and you don't just receive it in the police academy. You receive it ongoing. You have to go to maintain being a certified police officer for your department. You have to go to in-service, and I'm trying to remember if it was quarterly or every 3 months. If it was either 3 months or every 4 months. It might have been every 3 months. It's been a while since I've had to do that, but so you're constantly being retrained on defense and arrest tactics and any new tactics that come up. So he did not, elaborate on that at all. So I think we might have gone a little too far ahead. Do you guys remember? I don't think we heard about Jackson questioning him about the bulkhead last week, did we? I might have accidentally forwarded it a little too far. Do you guys want me to go back and see if we missed some of the Jackson questioning of him of the basement? Because I think that might have been my mistake, that we might have slipped ahead a little too far in his testimony. Does anyone remember? There's been so much going on this week, and Julie and I live streamed the hearing on Tuesday, both in the morning and afternoon. And I've been reading Twitter X every day, trying to keep up with all of these crazy announcements that have been made and motions that have been filed. And I can't remember now if we got to the part where Jackson talked to him about the basement. I might have slipped ahead too far. Yeah, I don't either. So yeah, let's just go back, because I definitely, in order to get the full point of what Lally's doing here and what he's trying to recover from, we need to be reminded of what happened. And I'm sorry about that. I probably just jumped my cursor just ahead a little too far. We were close to being done. So that's why but we were on for almost 4 hours again last Friday. So that's why we stopped. I couldn't go anymore, but let's go back to when Jackson was, I think I accidentally slipped ahead too far. Let's see what we got here. Let's try this and we'll see where we are. Whoops.
For bed, to settle in.
I went upstairs and just lied in bed. The TV was on. I was just kind of watching TV.
You have a nightstand?
I do.
Is it on your side of the bed or Nicole's, or you have one on each?
We may have had one on each in that house.
Yeah, I think this is where we ended. I'm going to go back even just a little bit more.
Somebody know.
Okay.
That's just a silly fooling around with my buddy.
Yeah, let's go there.
The technique for fighting or boxing.
Yeah.
I don't
this
think
is
it
where
was
we were.
that serious. We were just playing, fooling around.
Yeah, absolutely.
But both of you were in fighting stances, facing off against each other, correct?
Okay.
Yeah, for a second or two.
Want me to
And
go back a little
Mr.
more?
Higgins, you saw him bob his head and then start walking up toward you like a boxer might, correct? If that's never happened.
Yes.
Sir, you were in the Marines before you were a police officer, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
You're a combat
this I
veteran?
remember.
Yes.
How long were you in the Marine Corps?
4 years.
During the course of your Marine and military training, did you have any training in hand-to-hand combat?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
Yes.
In addition to your Marine training on the subject, did you also receive additional training from the police department through the academy or otherwise on basic hand-to-hand combat?
No.
So that's not part of the academy?
Not hand-to-hand combat. No.
Fighting techniques, use of batons, things of that nature.
Defensive tactics.
Defensive tactics. Okay, that's fighting, right?
Well, it's not hand-to-hand combat. No.
Okay, fair enough. I may be using the wrong word.
Yeah,
It's
he's not.
physical,
Brian's
it's
absolutely correct.
training on how to either defend yourself or control another person physically.
Yes.
I mean, they're not going to send you out there on the streets completely ill-equipped. They need to know that you know how to defend yourself and how to put somebody in custody that doesn't want to be in custody, correct?
Yes.
And that might include fighting.
It could. Yes.
And beyond your Marine training and your police training, you're independently trained in techniques of fighting.
Have I boxed before? Yes.
Okay. And you've trained in boxing. It's not like you just walk up and smack a heavy bag, right?
You'd have to rephrase.
You've trained. You're a trained boxer. You're a trained fighter.
I've boxed in the past, and I've trained to box. Yes.
Yeah. I mean, I've hit a heavy bag,
Right.
but I'm not a trained fighter. You're a trained fighter.
All right, so I'm going,
Okay,
there's an
thanks,
objection. You were
Terry.
standing, Mr. Lally.
Yes, sir.
Jurors, disregard that. Mr. Jackson, no comments, just questions, please.
Yes, Your Honor. In fact, your boxing skills were featured in a TV show that you were featured in as well, correct?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
No.
You were, in fact, no?
That they were featured in a show? No.
You've never shown on TV in a ring sparring with somebody?
I may have been shown training, but I don't think I was having a boxing match. No.
Okay, I wasn't suggesting that you were having like a pay-per-view. I was asking, is there a TV show that ever showed you in a ring boxing?
Well, that's not what you asked me, but if you're asking me that now, yes.
I'm asking you that now. I apologize. My questions are somewhat inartful.
Yes.
You understand the question now?
Yes.
And you have been shown, I use the word featured, you've been shown on television in a boxing ring,
Yes.
sparring.
I haven't seen the video in a while. I'm not sure if I was sparring.
If we can, Your Honor, with the court's permission, can we take a look at Exhibit 53?
Yeah,
Okay.
we do. That's coming.
It's a clip starting at
Argue
time of
much,
day,
Mr. Albert.
11,
Yeah, exactly.
47 and
He does
15
not like
seconds
Jackson.
to 11:48 and 35 seconds, maybe a minute and a half. Can you enhance that?
Thanks, Jerry D. I'll go back and we can rewind and show it once we get caught up from this part. We'll go back. Thank you, dear.
Pause. you see the two men in the foreground?
Yes.
Who are those two men?
Looks like myself and Brian Higgins.
Does it look like yourself and Brian Higgins, or is that yourself and Brian Higgins?
Yes, it is.
Good catch,
Can you
Jackson.
go ahead and play that? Sorry.
There's Karen group hugging with somebody while they're doing their little sparring thing. She's not paying a bit of attention to them. Getting their picture taken, maybe. Yeah, Brian Albert's in the puffy vest. Thanks, Sherry D. Yep. Interesting, isn't it? It's a puffy coat.
I've got one more clip to play.
That's something that the first EMS person said.
Let's take it down and you can put the other one up after the questions.
Did you see what was displayed on that video?
Yes.
Had you seen
Yeah,
that
I'm
before?
not sure who that
part
was.
of it,
in
yes.
fact.
Is that
Good
what you,
catch.
Mr. Lally,
I
went over
don't
in
know
your
who that is.
Preparation for your testimony?
I don't think that we went over it, but he showed me a quick clip of it.
When you say he showed you a quick look, did he ask you questions about it?
I don't think so. No.
Did you give him any answers about it?
No.
Any explanations?
No. Just
Just show you the clip and
Yeah.
I just want to throw this in real quick and then I'm going to hit play again. Remind me when we get to the end of this to bring up something that I saw today, another thing I saw on Twitter X today about how there was another person supposedly that came to the bar with Brian and Caitlyn didn't know who it was. And so I'm wondering if that's who that person is in the plaid, because I've never noticed him before. So let's try to go. I'll try to see if I can find that. This isn't this every day something new comes out. Somebody digs something new out that makes it very interesting, right?
I just said, yeah, it looks like we were fooling around.
okay, so you did make an explanation. You've given him an
Yeah,
explanation for it.
right. I said I think we were just fooling around.
Okay, it's the same thing you told us this morning.
I'll
right?
bring that up in
Right.
a second
Just
and
hold on.
chat about the
Yeah,
public
just
vote.
having fun with my friends and hanging out and fooling around.
Absolutely. What were you doing? Describe what you were doing.
Having fun with my friends, hanging out, just being silly.
Okay. Describe physically what you were doing in the video.
I was playing around, sort of getting in a boxing stance.
Okay. Otherwise known as a fighting stance, correct?
Yeah, for a second, yes.
Okay. And what did Brian Higgins do when you got into a fighting stance?
It looked like he was kind of doing the same thing.
Got
We
into a
just,
fighting stance as well, correct?
yeah,
What were you two talking about? You can tell you're talking.
yeah. I don't know what we were talking about. We were just being silly, fooling around, having fun.
Were you giving him advice on the proper way to get into a fighting stance or a boxing stance?
No,
You giving him some advice or some indicators about how to best position himself if someone is taking an aggressive stance against him?
no.
Is he telling you what he thought was a good technique for fighting or boxing?
I don't think it was that serious. We were just playing, fooling around.
But both of you were in fighting stances facing off against each other, correct?
Yeah, for a second or two.
And Mr. Higgins, you saw him bob
He's
his head.
visibly
and start
uncomfortable. You
walking
can tell
up
by his
toward you
body
like a boxer
posture.
might, correct?
Yeah.
Keeps
Yes.
piercing his
And then you
lip.
got down, pulled the pant legs up, and you squatted down to indicate getting low,
That-
having low center of gravity, correct?
That would never. That's indicating being silly. That
Okay. And
that's
then at
not.
some point, while you're being silly, you then faked a right punch toward him, correct?
I didn't notice that, but I'm not sure.
Can we take a look at the next part of this clip, which is at time of day 11:55 and 51 seconds. I'm sorry, 11:54 and 52 seconds. Pause it.
Yeah, Tristan was already gone by now because he went home to go to bed so he could get sleep to go plow.
Okay, there's several individuals crowded around a table. Can you describe where you are and where Mr. Higgins is?
Brian Higgins is the guy on the right with the hooded sweatshirt and the emblem on the back. I have a pointer. Do you want me to use it?
That'd be great. That'd be great.
So that's Brian Higgins, and that's me.
Okay, go ahead and play this. Pause. Did you see what you just did?
Yes.
What did you do when you slapped his right arm?
What did I do?
What did you do? What are you doing?
It looks like I'm just being silly, fooling around.
Okay, I'm going to ask you for a little bit more physical description. What are you doing? Why are you grabbing him from behind?
I don't really know.
Is that a wrestling hold?
No,
Is
I
that
don't
a
think so.
control hold?
No, I don't think so.
Is that some sort of a control hold that you've used in the past?
Bear hugging somebody? No.
Okay,
That's just a silly fooling around with my buddy.
let's go ahead and play this.
We're not sure of anything, Sherry D. They all lie so much and walk on each other's testimonies. Who knows, right? For all we know, Tristan was at the house the whole time.
Saw it. Do you see what Mr. Higgins just did?
I did, yeah.
When you let him go, what did he do?
I don't know. He did some kind of, I don't know, he pretended to knee me or something.
Knee to the abdomen?
Yeah, I don't know if it made contact or not, but
Mr. Albert, I'm not suggesting by my questions that you two are actually in a fight.
right.
I'm asking what he's doing. Does it seem to
Yeah, I don't,
you that he's playing like or practicing like techniques in fighting?
I don't know what his intent was. It looks like he's just fooling around just like I was.
But if a grown man walks up to you, grabs you from behind, and puts a knee up to your solar plexus, that's probably not the same as a high five, right?
What is your question?
In other words, it looks like he's practicing some sort of fighting technique.
Practicing? That's not how I see that.
How would you describe it?
I would just describe it as him fooling around. We're in the bar together. We're good friends. And we're just being silly and fooling. That's all.
There's a number of people in that bar. You would agree with that?
Yes.
You see anybody else in that video at any time getting physical with one another?
Objection.
How much of this video have you actually watched?
Not much.
Okay, then let me ask a different question. From your memory of that night, who are the only two people in the bar that seem to be getting physical with one another?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
Sure. The only person I remember being physical with was fooling around with Brian.
Okay, but just a little bit longer. Almost finished.
It's just so absurd, all of it.
You can take that down. Did you see the rest of that video?
Yes.
No question that you two are being friendly with one another, correct?
Yes.
You would agree with that?
Yes.
But there's also no question that of all the people in that bar, the only two people that appear to be imitating fighting are you and Mr. Higgins, correct?
In that video, yes.
And, is there another video? Do
Well, no, I just don't know what everybody else was doing in the bar.
you remember anybody else? You know, Julie Albert or
I don't remember.
Nicole getting into a scrap with someone?
No.
No, it's just you two, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Albert, this is minutes before everybody headed to your house at 34 Fairview, correct?
Yes.
Including John O'Keefe.
Yes.
Going back to the morning of January 29th, everyone had left your location. This is after you had already arrived, had a couple of beers, people started leaving. everybody was gone from your location at about 1:45 a.m., maybe a little thereafter.
That seems right.
Caitlyn being the last person to leave.
I believe so, yes.
What did you do to get?
And let's say this too. Why didn't Caitlyn stay overnight? It's a bad storm. The snow's coming down pretty good by this time. Her boyfriend had to go out and plow at 3 a.m. because that's what her testimony was. And I believe his as well. When we get his testimony, it's just so bizarre because all he does is say, I don't know, can't remember. But if he left the waterfall early to go home and go to bed because he was going to have to get up and plow because of the blizzard, because of the storm. And so why would she have him come get her at 10 to 2 or 5 to 2 in the morning when she could have just stayed overnight at her parents' house, right? Because they took the dog. They had to take the dog out of that house. So that's how Tristan ended up back at the Alberts' home. That's just my take on it. So, all right, we'll keep going.
Get ready for bed, to settle in.
I went upstairs and just lied in bed. The TV was on. I was just kind of watching TV.
You have a nightstand?
I do.
Is it on your side of the bed or Nicole's, or you have one on each?
We may have had one on each in that house.
Put your phone on your nightstand?
No.
Where'd you put your phone?
The phone was in bed with me.
So your testimony is that you get in bed after being on a road trip all day long, then at restaurants, and at bars, then at a get-together at your house. And when you go to bed, you don't charge your phone?
No. I had the phone in the bed with me.
Why would you have the phone in the bed?
We have 5 kids. And, if somebody was trying to call or if I needed to reach them, it's just kind of a habit I do. I put my reading glasses and my phone in bed with me.
And you don't charge it?
Sometimes I charge it, but not as a routine, no.
So you're worried about having your kids out. They might need to get a hold of dad. So you make sure that your phone is nice and close, but it can just run out of batteries?
Well, if it's dying, then I'll put it in the charger. But if not, I just leave it on the bed.
Well, what about that night?
That night, the phone was on the bed.
How do you know?
Well, I remember the phone being on the bed.
You have a specific recollection from 2.5 years ago about the state of the battery charge on your phone such that you know it was in your bed that night.
No, I just know as a routine, I keep my phone in the bed with me.
That's not what you just said. You just said.
He just backed it
depends on
out.
whether or not the battery needs
He's
to be charged.
contradicting himself, of course.
My answer is that sometimes I, of course, charge my battery,
Of course you have.
but I sleep with the phone in my bed.
Every single night?
Yes, mostly every night.
Good point,
I thought you
Shirley.
just said 4 questions ago, it depends on whether or not the phone needs to be charged. Sometimes you keep it in the bed, sometimes you put it on the charger.
If the phone needs to be charged, I charge it, but I sleep in bed with my phone.
Mr. Albert, did your phone need to be charged that night?
I don't remember if it did, but I slept in bed with the phone.
You've been on a road trip most of the day, correct?
Yes.
No way you're going to
You've been out
remember
of bars
that
that
little
night,
detail
correct?
about
Mhm.
whether or not you
Yes.
charged your
Yes.
phone that night
You
or
weren't
you
charging your phone. We just saw that.
There's just no
video.
way.
You weren't charging your phone at the bar.
Right.
So when you got home, clearly put your
It
phone
was
on
over
charger.
2 years by the time
But I did not.
the trial went on.
So if your kids needed to get a hold of you, why would the phone being in your bed be any assistance to you instead of just on the charger at the nightstand?
That's just what I've always done. I just keep it in my bed. My wife does the same thing.
So now you've got 2 phones in the bed.
Yes.
Okay. And your glasses,
Yes.
right between the 2 of you.
Yes.
Got it. Your phone have a ringer on it?
It does.
Ever thought about maybe turning the ringer on just in case the kids need to get a hold of you?
Sometimes it's on vibrate. Sometimes it's on ring. It depends.
Yeah, depends on you. You just put it on ringer. Wouldn't that make more sense to go to bed, put it on ringer?
Objection.
Can you answer that?
All I can answer is that I sleep with my phone in my bed. That's just what I do.
And you know what I'm about to ask you, which is why you're saying you sleep with the phone in the bed, correct?
All right,
I
so
s-
that's sustained, that's stricken. Poor Mr. Jackson.
All right. What else is in the bed with you? Your keys, your wallet, any other pocket items?
No.
Just the phone and your glasses
Yes.
and
Maybe
Nicole's
some
phone,
loose change,
Yes.
right between the two of you.
Usually, yes.
snack.
What about that night?
Yes.
Sir, did you make any phone calls after you went to bed between the hours of 1:45 a.m. and 6:30 a.m.?
Yes.
Julie.
Who did you call?
I inadvertently called Brian Higgins.
What time?
I don't recall the exact time. After 2.
2:22 and 35 seconds. Does that sound familiar?
Yes.
Did you speak to Brian Higgins at any point between 1:45 a.m. and 6:30 a.m. that night?
No.
You say you inadvertently called him at 2:22 in the morning.
Yes.
How did you inadvertently call him?
Well, I don't know because it was inadvertent.
So I have to explain that.
You got to give
Well,
him
it's
that.
kinda like a
You got to
butt
give
dial.
him that one.
I don't like it like that. All right. How long have you used an iPhone?
A long time.
As a matter of fact, you've been asked this question before, haven't you?
Yes.
Hence my question. You knew what I was going to ask you.
Objection, Your Honor.
I'll withdraw it. You indicated previously at a different hearing in June of 2023 that you were, quote, hanging out with your wife and you must have butt dialed Mr. Higgins, correct?
Yes.
At 2:22 and 35 seconds on January 29th, 2022, correct?
Yes.
You were asked how that could have happened, much like I just asked how that could have happened, right?
Yes.
And in that hearing, you said, quote, I'm not totally sure. Similar to what you just said here.
Yes.
And here you added that it could have been a butt dial.
Yes.
Jackson's so good here, isn't he?
You were then called back to that same hearing, but at a different date, an ongoing hearing, right?
Yes.
That was in July of 2023, correct?
Yes.
You then changed your testimony and
Yes,
said,
you
and I don't mean to
absolutely
be
can
indelicate,
see the
your
solo
testimony
cup
was
house.
then that you were
For
having,
sure.
you were in an intimate situation, I'll put it that way, with Nicole at the time. And that's how you butt dialed Brian Higgins, correct?
I don't believe I said that's how I butt dialed Brian Higgins.
That's the time.
I think I said there was a time frame that was close.
Okay.
So I didn't say that, no.
All right. What you said was you were in an intimate situation with Nicole at the time that the butt dial occurred, correct?
I'm not sure if you have something you can read me or show me.
Is it your testimony, let me just ask, is it
Sure.
your testimony that you and your wife were in the middle of some sort of sexual or intimate situation, and that's what caused you to butt dial the phone at that time at 2:22 a.m.?
Objection.
Sustained.
He's not
I have to
happy
show
right
you
now.
an exhibit
He keeps
briefly.
looking around and he keeps making faces with his mouth. Basically, his mouth keeps moving up and down. He's feeling the stress.
They have just told you.
Yes.
May I approach briefly?
Yes.
I'm not gonna mark this to see if this refreshes. Sir, I just want to find out if this refreshes your recollection. Look at lines 11 through 13. And then let me know when you're,
Yeah, body
There.
language stress. Absolutely. I love these reading glasses he has. They look like they're Nicole's. They don't. I don't need reading glasses, so I don't even know how they're supposed to fit you. But that looks really wild to me.
Yes.
may I approach?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that you indicated at the other hearing that?
Just the first part of that first.
His
Does that
glasses
refresh
look
your
bent.
recollection?
They probably got
It does.
mashed up in their little
Thank you,
intimacy
Your Honor.
with their phones and their
Isn't it true
glasses.
that at the other hearing, you indicated that
Whenever else
at
they
or
take to
around
bed
the
with them.
2:22 timeframe, you and your wife were in bed together in an intimate situation?
Yes, around that time, I think it reads.
May I approach briefly, Your Honor?
Yes.
Well, with the court's permission, let me ask a couple of questions. Do you recall every call that you made between, say, 1:45 a.m. and the next couple of days? Do you remember every single one of those calls?
No.
Do you think it would refresh your recollection to look at a log of those calls during that time frame if we're going to discuss those?
Yes.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Yep, you've got two police officers living across the street from one another, and neither one of them came out of their house to render aid or just to help out, to keep people back, to maybe help separate the witnesses, maybe help secure the scene, maybe, I don't know. Like you said, MCAT, wrap your head around that. It makes zero sense, right?
May I, Your Honor?
Yes.
That's 2 pages worth of documents. If it refreshes your recollection as we walk through this, with the court's permission, let me know if you need to refer to that.
Right. I'm not going to be able to read it right now. I'll do it as you ask.
Correct, yeah. No, you don't need to read it right now. Just wanted to have it in front of you. By the way, you've seen these records before, correct? At the other hearing proceeding?
I've seen some records before, yes. I don't know if these exact records or not.
All right, and you've acknowledged that at least the first page, these are your phone records for the number ending 0888, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And these are call records from January 29th
Yes.
at 2:22 and 35 seconds in the morning, correct?
Yes.
Whose number ends in 5421?
According to this, it's Brian Higgins.
The call at 2:22 and 35 seconds appears to be 1 second in length, and that's from you to him, correct?
It says 1 second. I don't.
That would be the call, the initial call from you to him, the one that you claim is a butt dial. Is that right?
Yes.
Did that call roll to voicemail and then you immediately hung up?
No, I don't recall if it. I don't know.
So according to you, it was a butt dial that went to his phone that somehow lasted 1 second.
Right.
Okay. Then there's a second call. If you look at the second line down, there's a second call at 2:22 and 52 seconds, 17 seconds later, correct?
Yes.
That call is actually from Brian Higgins to you, isn't it?
Yes.
And that call doesn't last 1 second. That call lasts 22 seconds, correct?
Yes.
Obviously, you know how long 22 seconds is.
What's that?
You know how long 22 seconds lasts.
Yes.
So according to your phone records, you placed a call to him, and then 17 seconds later, he returned a call to you that lasted 22 seconds, correct?
That's what the records reflect. Yes.
When you woke up in the morning, you obviously checked your phone, did you not?
I don't know if I did.
Are you telling this jury that the call that came into your phone was a missed call, or did you answer it?
I did not answer it.
So it would have been a missed call.
I just know I didn't answer the call.
So it would have been a missed call.
Well, I don't know. I don't know that to be a fact. I just know I didn't answer the phone call.
Okay.
I missed the call. Yes.
That's what I mean.
Right.
You missed the call.
Right.
It did something on your phone and you just didn't answer it, according to you.
Right.
Okay. And again, you're using an iPhone.
Yes.
If you butt dialed Brian Higgins and he called you back and you didn't answer, you would have a very bright red missed call in your call log, correct?
Objection.
Do you know that?
I don't know that.
Have you ever
Yes,
missed a
you
call
know
on your
that.
iPhone before?
Everybody knows that.
Yes.
And when you go to your call logs, it says missed call in red, correct? After your wife calls you, your kids call you.
I don't think I've ever noticed that it's in red, and so no, I don't know that to be true.
You're certainly alerted to the fact that it's a missed call, that you've missed a call, correct?
If I were to go back and look at my incoming calls, it would probably say missed call, yes.
And of course, if we asked you to show us your phone and show that that was a missed call,
He's so
you
evasive.
couldn't do that because you've gotten rid of that phone, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you tell anyone in law enforcement that next day that oddly Brian Higgins was calling you at 2:22 a.m. and you missed a call?
No, I wasn't aware of that call.
If a call went to voicemail on your phone, you would get that voicemail, correct? You'd get notice of it.
If I checked my voicemails and there was a voicemail, I would get it, yes.
That's my question. Did you get a voicemail from Brian Higgins?
No,
Which means he didn't leave a voicemail,
right.
which would suggest that you answered the call, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Let's talk for a second about this butt dial. You went to bed and you closed and your phone was, you closed and locked your phone, correct?
Yes.
I don't want you to tell me what the passcode is, Mr. Albert. That's important. I want to make sure you understand. I'm not asking you to tell me what the passcode is, but at the time, was your passcode a 4-digit or 6-digit passcode?
4, I believe.
And that locks the phone when it's not in use, correct?
The phone will lock after it's not used for a while. I don't know the exact timing of it.
You're exactly right, Mr. Albert. I said it backward. The
Right.
phone automatically locks. You have to use the 4-digit passcode to unlock it, correct?
Well, no, I also have face recognition too, so it can open that way without any passcode.
We'll get to that in a second. The phone locks when it's not in use, correct?
Yes.
And then to make a call, once you open the phone, either through facial recognition or through the passcode, then you have to tap on the phone app in order to open up the phone app, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Once you open up that phone app, there are only 3 ways that you can initiate a phone call. Favorites, recents, and contacts, correct?
I don't know that.
If you tap on a contact, that opens up the contact page or the contact app, right? You know that.
Yes.
That's where all your contacts are.
Yes.
They're alphabetized.
Yes.
You have to either scroll through or do a search and type in the name of the person you're looking for.
Right.
You didn't do that, did you?
No.
If you tap favorites, if you have favorites listed, there's a list of favorites. You have to scroll through and tap the one that you want to call, correct?
I think so. Yes. I'm not totally aware of that, but
And if you tap on recents, those are the recent calls that you've had, you've either received or made. And of course, you have to tap on the contact.
Absolutely
in the
aware of
recents
how to
list
use a
that you
cell
want.
phone because
right?
he needs one for work.
yes.
And then, of course, you would have to tap again
Just think
to
we're all
end
doing-
whatever call you initiated, right?
Yes.
I mean, you don't just say goodbye. You got to say goodbye and hang up. You got to tap it to hang it up.
Right.
So would you agree from a closed and locked phone, there is no physical mechanism by which a person can hit one button and make a phone call?
Objection.
Sustained. No, sustained.
Are you saying that from your closed and locked phone, you inadvertently tapped your phone one time and that initiated a butt dial to Brian Higgins?
Objection.
Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying.
Tell me what you're saying. How
I
did you butt dial Brian Higgins?
I don't know.
22 in the morning.
I don't know that the phone was locked. I could have been looking through my phone. I butt dial people often and make inadvertent calls. I could have hit a last call from him by accident, thus calling his phone.
So you were actually awake and on your phone at the time.
I was awake and I could have been looking at my phone.
So Mr. Albert, how'd you miss the call 17 seconds later?
Well, my wife was in the room with me and we were hanging out, and I never got the second call from him. So I'm not sure what time he called. I'm not sure what I was doing at that second, but I don't know.
But it didn't go to voicemail.
Well, I didn't get a voicemail from him. No.
So it didn't go to voicemail.
Well, I don't know that don't know that it didn't go to voicemail. I just know that I didn't receive a voicemail from him.
So if
Getting a
you,
little worked up.
okay,
I mean, we're all guessing here, but I mean, he could have called voicemail.
we're not all guessing.
Well, you are, because you don't know if he left a voicemail or didn't, or at least got voicemail and then hung up the phone.
I think one of us is trying to guess.
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained. You know what? I want to see Counselor sidebar for just a second.
I figured you would. So yeah, he was evasive, like the whole way was evasive, and we all, obviously believe he's lying. There are those that think he's telling the truth. Obviously, those who think that Karen hit John with her car, that he's telling the truth about all that, that he and Nicole take their phones to bed and he leaves his glasses in the bed, not worried if he's going to roll over and crush them. Or I know most of us freak out when we fall asleep with our glasses on us or in bed with us, because we're worried we're going to roll over them and break them. It's just so unbelievable, isn't it? How easily they can all just sit up there and just weave their little lie trail that they created early that morning and got all their stories straight, and how many of their stories match up. But yet when someone messes up, then you can really see it. It's really glaring, because when you're lying, it's not always you're not going to remember to say the lie the way that you were told to, or the way you rehearsed it. Right. So you guys are cracking me up tonight over here in the conversation area. I love it. It's really helpful. Yeah, his facial recognition. I forgot about this part, his facial recognition butt dial. Yeah, that's just hysterical. I was thinking, like, oh my gosh, it just can't get any stupider than this. I thought they asked him about tech stuff in emotion. Was that him or Garano? I don't remember. Garano, how do you say his name? I don't pronounce his name right. I don't remember, Julie. Does anyone else remember? And Sherry D, OMG, the jurors are eating this up like he doesn't know cell phones. They're totally believing him. Yeah, I think they did. I don't think, and from what we heard from the interview with the juror that Aiden had on, it doesn't sound like they paid much attention to anything that the defense was saying, that they just kind of considered it all, nonsense or not anything important, that didn't have anything to do with what they were trying to determine. I don't get that. Like, I don't get how they couldn't sit there and listen to this and see that he was being evasive, and that he could have been lying, but he was definitely evasive, and he was being combative at times with Jackson, and you could tell he was uncomfortable about the conversation. I just find it hard to believe that they wouldn't give any of that testimony any credence. It just seems so strange. Julie says, where one of them says Skiff or some device, I know Sean brought it up because he acts like he's never seen a phone. Yeah, for sure. I mean, and they use cell phones for work because it's 2025, and he was still working. Well, back then it was 2023, but he was still working. He hadn't left the force yet. So he most definitely knows the ins and outs of a cell phone. I mean, but pretty much everybody does now, even people that are older than us, that are in their 70s and 80s. Most people know how to work cell phones now and know the gist of them, right? Sherry D says those eye movements, he's looking at the O'Keefe side, not Lally. Oh yeah, definitely. Yep. Very good catch there. And yes, how do you miss 32,000 text messages in the Sander Birchmore case? I mean, that's when all that comes out and it finally, goes to court and all of this comes out, there's going to be, people are going to be stunned at what we don't know, what they haven't, released or letting us know. Because the corruption is just flowing between Catton and Stoughton, between these two cases. It's just unbelievable. And Julie says, oh, his eyes tell everything, like how he's desperately trying to get someone to object. Yeah. He's definitely uncomfortable. There's no doubt about that. All right, let's finish him up and then we'll be done with Brian and then we can move on to Brian Jr. tonight. See how far we get. I think we're getting close to where he turns it over to Lally. So let me go back. I'm going to go back and see if I can find that bulkhead because Julie said it was at 240. Yes. Okay. Yes. I might not have, I think this was at the very end before we closed off last Friday. And I know we were all tired and we'd been on for a long time. I really don't remember much about this. So let's just listen to a few minutes of this part and then we'll take our stretch break.
Once you're down in the basement, by the way, there's 2 flights that you go down at angles to get to the basement. A series of steps, a landing, take a left, another series of steps, and you stand on the basement.
Yes, not a long staircase, very small, but
Right. I mean, it's narrow and tight, but in other words, you don't just walk straight down a staircase. You go down to a landing, turn left,
turns a little.
go down, turn left again, and now you're in the basement.
Yes.
If you wanted to move something large or heavy out of that basement without having to go through the house.
I agree, Sherry D.
Yeah.
Sure,
I've
sure.
always thought that.
I'll allow it.
Could you rephrase the
Paula
question?
agrees too.
Say it again. If you wanted to move something large or heavy out of that basement without having to go through the main house, could you do that?
Yes, I mean, it would depend what it was, obviously, how big
Thank
it was.
you,
Or,
Sherry D.
How would you do that?
there's a bulkhead door you can use.
Got it. Where does that bulkhead door come out?
But we never use that
comes
door because it's broken.
To the backyard, right at the kitchen area. You can.
That's what he says to Lally.
You can
Remember,
see
we
it from the
told her to
kitchen.
say that.
And right to the
tonight.
left
we
of
don't
that
use that door. It's broken.
is the side fence.
Yes.
And directly through that side fence is the front yard.
Yes.
The same side of the front yard as John O'Keefe's body was found.
Yes.
Your Honor, I would ask at this point to mark a video. Let me have just a moment.
Yes.
Mr. Jackson, would you like to take the morning recess?
That'd be great. Good time. Yes, thank you.
Okay.
Take a look at this photograph.
This is where we
Mr. Albert.
started tonight.
And if you could please tell me if you recognize
all
what's
of this
depicted in that
now,
photograph.
and we were up to Lally. And there's not much of Lally left. Do you want to see the end part with Lally, or are we good with Brian? So what just happened is that she said, do you want to take the morning break? And then Boston 10 just kind of clipped it right back and started up again. So this is where we actually started today when we first started. You missed Jackson. Oh, I thought, how did we miss that though? Hang on, let me go back. Because I didn't forward it. It just, I don't know why it doesn't. Oh, there it is. Okay, sorry, you're right. That is the very beginning, right after the break, the recess. And I accidentally missed that. So that's how we missed it. But I'm glad we went all the way back to those questions, the questions that he had for him. So let me go there. There we go. That should do it.
You can publish, Your Honor?
Okay.
Do you see what's depicted on the television screen?
Yes,
Does that appear to be the same as what you're holding right there, that exhibit?
it does. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to direct your attention, if I could, to the lower left portion of this photograph. And right there. Do you see that? tell what that is?
I can't.
Let me highlight it one more time, right there. Maybe it's easier if you look
We
on
can't.
your photograph.
Yeah.
Are you referring to the doorknob? Yeah, I got it here. Yes.
I'm sorry, it's sort of hidden on that photograph, so I apologize. Is
That
that
knob
the
has
door
got an
that
interesting
swings
shape, doesn't
open
it?
or closed to close off the basement?
Yes.
Then if you open that door, it's in the open position now, correct?
Yes.
So the photographer is standing in the basement looking toward the doorway, correct?
Yes.
Then you climb 7 or 8 stairs,
Yes.
and that bulkhead door, which is where all the light is emanating, how does that open?
So the bulkhead door opens straight up.
Okay, at least in that photograph, it was hinged toward the house and would open up like a, I don't know, like a sandwich or something.
It opens straight up to the bay windows that are in the kitchen.
Got it, okay. Okay, that's all I need for that photograph. Your Honor, I have a flash drive with a video on it. I asked that this be marked as next in order.
Okay, so
Court's
this
permission.
is, so we have seen this, so let me take us
Assuming it's the
forward
same one, no.
where we were.
You received, end quote, you received that notice on either the 23rd or the,
Yep, that's about his phone preservation.
Not sure of the context of that.
so now you just can't remember.
No, I don't think I could remember during that testimony either. I think if you read the whole thing, I think I said I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Your quote was, I know there were conversations about the phones. I just can't say if he said he was going to get rid of his phone or not, end
Right.
quote.
Right.
Does that help refresh your recollection?
Yes.
So now as you sit here and you answer my question, did
Now
you
this-
and Brian
this we
Higgins
saw.
have a conversation about your phones?
I don't remember having that conversation with Brian Higgins.
All right, let's shift gears.
So that was all last week. So we did see all that. So then we're up to this, and then we're all the way to Lally. There he is with his glasses.
Mr. Albert,
Okay. He looks very perturbed.
You were asking questions about going over to Ms. McCabe's house later on in the afternoon of the 29th, correct?
Yes.
Why did you go over there?
I went to Jen's house
Yeah,
because
just take
she's my
a quick
sister-in-law.
break.
She was
let's
going
finish.
through an
There's
awful
very
time
little
that
left,
morning,
so let's just
as we all
listen to
were.
what Lally had to say.
And I wanted to be there to comfort her if she needed anything.
Okay,
Because we're so close, I didn't want her to.
Liar, liar, liar.
You woke up in New York City and went to a funeral, is that correct?
Yes, I went to a funeral that morning in New York.
And that was for a fallen police officer from the New York City Police Department?
Yes, a police officer in New York that had been murdered while on duty. And that was his funeral.
And did you know that police officer whose funeral you attended?
objection.
The objection sustained. Next question.
Now, with reference to, you then drive all the way home from New York to Massachusetts, correct?
Yes,
And you went out to a couple of different places, had a couple drinks, correct?
yes,
And then went back to your home and went to bed sometime around 2 a.m. or so?
yes, after 2.
And so about how long had you been asleep from the time that you dozed off to the time that Ms. McCabe comes into your bedroom that morning?
Only a few hours, probably 3-4 hours, 3.5, 4 hours.
Now, in relation to waking up that morning, you testified that you did not go outside, correct?
Yes.
And why not?
Initially, when I woke up and I was told what was going on out front, I looked out my window and I saw some emergency vehicles. I did not see
You're right.
John at that time.
We did see that part. Okay, good. I wasn't sure. It's all
Lock it,
melding
and
together
sometimes
now.
it would be hard to do. But the wooden door that goes into the basement has a lock on the.
Oh, wait. I want to hear this because I think he contradicts himself.
At that time, there was no victim out in front of my house. So there was no first aid for me to give. There was nothing I could do.
You were asking questions about the sort of bulkhead in the back of your house, correct?
Yes.
Where is that bulkhead in relation to the bay windows of the kitchen that you were testifying about?
So the bulkhead door is directly under the bay windows in the kitchen. The bulkhead door opens up almost directly into the windows, obviously without hitting them, but it opens up into the front of the bay windows.
What you saw as far as that video that was shown to you, that's not what the bulkhead looked like. That's not what the door looked like at that time on January 28th or 29th, 2022.
No, those are not the doors we had.
And as far as the bulkhead was concerned, when that bulkhead was opened around that time, what, if any, kind of noise would that bulkhead make?
A loud creaking, old rusty metal sound when you opened it.
And is that something that if it was open and you were in the kitchen area, you could hear?
Yes.
Now, in reference to that bulkhead, what, if any, security or what, was it open? Was it locked? How was that left?
So the bulkhead door was shut and it was broken. So sometimes you could turn the middle thing to lock it, and sometimes it would be hard to do. But the wooden door that goes into the basement has a lock on the doorknob. That is a door that we keep locked because we don't use it.
Now, as far as from the bulkhead, you were shown in that video a gate that opens up to the front yard area of the house. Is that correct?
Yes.
And what, if any, other gates are located on the fence in your backyard?
So we also have a gate on the rear part of the fence. And there's also a gate on the opposite side of the house.
And the gate in the rear area of the fence, where does that lead to?
So that leads to some woods, and then eventually you'll hit some train tracks.
Now, with respect to your phone, that was something
Feeling the
that you
stress, aren't you,
had
Brian?
upgraded prior to any notification you received from the district.
We heard that.
34 Fairview Road. What, if anything, did you observe or notice with reference to cell phone reception in that area of your home?
So oftentimes using the phone within my house, it seemed like it was it's a slang term, the dead zone for the phone. The reception wasn't great.
And is that something that recurred over the time that you lived there?
Yes.
Now, with reference to the phone and prior to the intimate moment that you shared with your wife sometime after she lay do you recall whether or not the phone screen was locked at that time? Were you checking that at that particular time?
I don't recall the exact timing, but I know it was opened sometimes and then it was closed, obviously, at some point, but I don't know the exact timing.
So the phone may not have been locked at the time that you began that situation with your wife?
It may not have been.
Began that situation.
With reference to the
situation room.
phone records that you were shown, the best of your memory, is that the entirety of the phone calls that you made around that time?
No, it looks like it's selective people and numbers.
And with respect to those conversations, if you recall, what, if anything, in general terms, were you discussing with either those people in the logs or other people in general?
In general, I'm sure there was some discussion about the awful thing that had taken place, and there may have been other calls unrelated as well.
Can I have one moment, John?
Yes.
He is at the end of his patience with all of this. You can tell he's
Mr.
very
Albert.
upset.
On
But
the
he's
early
trying to
morning of
hide it.
January 29th, 2022, did John O'Keefe ever come into your house that night?
John never came into my house that night. He would have been welcomed, and the defendant would have been welcomed with open arms had they come in, and I wish they had. I really do.
Were you ever even aware that John O'Keefe or the defendant were anywhere in the area of your house during that early morning of January 29th?
I was not.
And nothing further on.
Very briefly.
Okay.
So we talked about cell phone reception not being good in your house. When did you and Mr. Lally talk about that cell phone reception issue?
The what?
The cell phone reception issue in your house.
It came up during one of the preps.
Which prep?
I don't remember which prep, probably the last one.
I thought you only had one prep with Mr. Lally.
Well, we had the prep before the grand jury, and then I had the prep for this trial.
Okay, so
So that's two.
you brought up the fact that you had bad cell phone reception in that preparation.
The conversation came up, yes.
Was Riley taking notes?
I don't recall if he was taking notes.
Was this recorded?
I don't believe so.
Of course
Where did
not.
you say this conversation took place?
So the prep was at the
They recorded their interview.
district attorney's office, which is in Canton.
This morning when I asked you, you said you couldn't quite remember where it took place.
You're right. I couldn't remember this morning.
And I asked you, could it have been the DA's office, and now your memory is refreshed?
Yes.
What refreshed your memory between this morning and now?
I was just thinking about it in my head and reminded myself that it was the DA's office. You caught
You
me
reminded
caught me off guard when you had asked me. I didn't have it at the top of mind.
Did you talk to Mr. Lally over the lunch hour?
Briefly,
Bring up the fact that you had bad cell reception in your house over the lunch hour?
just now, no.
What did you talk about over the lunch hour?
Just how much time I was going to have left on the stand. That was really about it.
So you and Mr. Lally talked about the fact that you've been on cross-examination for 2.5 hours, and your conversation consisted of, you probably got another 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think he was going to lunch or doing something. So
So you didn't talk about the substance of your testimony.
no.
He didn't tell you what questions he was going to ask you on redirect.
Maybe mentioned one thing he may ask me, but that was it.
Like, what was that?
Just he was going to ask about what happened at the house in the morning. That's, some of the questions on redirect. That's all.
Meaning he was going to ask you the question about whether or not John came in the house?
No, not necessarily. Just
Ask you about whether or not you had bad cell reception in the house?
no.
What was he going to ask you?
He was going to ask about the morning of the incident, about coming downstairs and why I didn't go outside.
Did he tell you what he thought would be helpful for the Commonwealth?
Nope.
Did he tell you how he thought you should answer that question?
No.
He did ask you about a situation concerning the motion to preserve, correct?
No.
I'm sorry. He asked you on redirect about the motion.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And he mentioned that there was a motion that had been denied for the defense to get access to your physical phone, correct?
Yes.
You're aware that that motion was denied in October of 2022, correct?
Yes.
You had already gotten rid of your phone a month earlier, hadn't you?
Yes.
And the preservation order from the judge was still in place when you got rid of that phone, wasn't it?
No, I believe the phone was upgraded prior to the preservation
Good night,
order.
Sherry
Correct.
D. See you next
day
week.
before.
Thanks
Yes.
for coming.
That's all I had.
All right, Mr. Albert, you are all set, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Jerry.
Mr. Albert, you are all.
Watch what eggs do to your senior dog.
Nice
Raw
laugh,
egg
guys.
or cooked
Yes.
egg? It doesn't actually
Jury,
matter.
he thinks
Eggs are
the
great
jury.
for dogs.
That was crazy. I had forgotten he did that. He said, "Thank you, jury." Oh my gosh, I don't know. Okay, so we literally listened to Brian pretty much 2 weeks in a row because we started with Nicole and we kind of saw a little bit of Brian, and then last week we had all Brian. I mean, he was evasive the whole time, like so many times evasive, or selective memory, or he'd say something and then he'd walk it back. And we all believe he also lied. So if we had to ask ourselves those three questions, was Brian Albert 100% truthful? Absolutely not. Was Brian Albert evasive? Yes, he was evasive. And did Brian Albert lie? In my opinion, yes, he lied. And I would assume most of you would agree with me. But it was really fascinating listening back. And I have to say, I thought maybe he'd break. I kind of, I forgot because we've watched so much and we've seen so much. I couldn't remember if he broke and had a little bit of a smile at some point or seemed a little bit more relaxed, like as it went on, but he didn't. I mean, he was stoic, like a stone face. It was like a gray cloud was over his head the entire time. He never once cracked a smile or made even any kind of a relaxed. His face just looked tense and disturbed and irritated and dark. It was just, that was crazy, wasn't it? And thank you, Sherry D. Thanks for all the help with letting us know where we go back to find the bulkhead and for all of the research that you do on the fly while we're live streaming. It's so helpful. We really appreciate it when you're here. Thanks so much. Have a good night's rest. We're just going to start Brian Albert tonight. My neck is really bugging me today. I had a rough day with pain. It was both my knees hurt and my neck hurt. So we're going to stop at the 2-hour mark tonight, and we'll just do the last little bit with. We'll get a start. We're going to take a short stretch break right now, though. I have to get up and move around for a second. So just a 5-minute stretch break, and then we'll just start out with. We'll start with the cross of Brian Albert Jr., and then we'll decide next week if we want to bear Lally or not. So Sherry D says, one last thing. Don't forget the jurors said it was intimidating when Brian Higgins was in the courtroom at close. Oh, when Brian and then Higgins was in the courtroom at closing meeting, they didn't know who lived at 34 Fairview. Wait, I have to read that again. Don't forget the jurors said, yes, it was intimidating when Brian Albert McCabe, right? And then what do you mean by Higgins was in the courtroom at closing? Meaning they didn't know who lived at 34 Fairview. You're going to have to tell it. I hope you're still here because I'm not exactly sure what you mean. I'm tired too. So it's been a long week with a lot of live time and streaming and reading. And yes, back in 5. I hope no one was counting all those potential, but probably definitely fibs. Yeah, a lot of them. Okay, I'm going to take 5 minutes, everybody. Anybody who's on replay with us or who just kind of joined in now on live, we're just taking a 5-minute break. So I'm just going to put that up on the screen. Whoops. 5-minute break. Stretch break for all of us that are over 60. I'm 2 years over 60. I need my stretch break. So 5-minute break, and I'll just stick that up there so everybody can see it, and I will be right back. 5-minute break. There we go. Okay. See you guys in a minute. Somebody's awake. Perfect timing. He's caught on my glasses. He's got on my glasses. I got to get him untangled. Where'd you get caught? Here we go. Mr. Fluffy. He says, I'm awake, guys. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go for 20 more minutes. Oh, maybe not. All right. Did everybody get their stretch in? Puppy's awake. Yes, he is. He's doing really good. He's really a good little buddy. His training is just coming along amazing. He's leash walking. He's sitting. He's almost giving me his paw. He's sleeping like 4 hours through the night and then out to the bathroom and a little snack and then right back to sleep. He's really something. All righty then. So let's give Brian Albert Jr. a little bit of run for his money tonight, and then we'll have to finish him next week. And when we'll get Kate, and then we'll get Caitlyn next week. So we're getting there. We're getting closer and closer. I checked. I think there's not too many in between before we get to Matt and Jen. That's going to be really great to go over both of their testimonies because there's so much involved in, well, especially Jen's. That's going to take us two weeks. Matt'll take us one whole Friday night. Jen will take us 2 Friday nights for sure because there's so much involved with her. So it will be interesting when we get to them because I've only rewatched a little bit of both of their testimonies, and especially now that that Lana has come up with, that these live streamers have come up with these new theories. I can't wait to watch that now. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I never have a problem with you guys mentioning other live streamers because we want to support everybody that's standing for justice and that's standing to, get the right person convicted of a crime. So I'm always happy to hear about other live streamers shows and what they're coming up with, and just the amazing amount of time that people have put into researching and watching the testimony back and looking at the photos and reading the police reports. And it's really quite something, isn't it? It's impressive. So, but next week we have to show some more of Julie. So last night we showed one of Julie's tests that she did with her blob, which she found a black blow up looking figure that looked exactly like Julie Nagel's blob. And she'd done some testing with it. So we showed a little bit of it last night. If you want to check it out, it's in our library on Social Change Warriors. Just go to the live button and you can find last night's episode where we just did all the recap of what went on in the last crazy 2 weeks. And then Julie showed us one of her tests, but she's got more tests. And I got to see one of them last night after the live. We stayed together in the green room, and we're going to go over her other videos and kind of pick and choose which ones we're going to show you. So we'll definitely have Julie back on the platform next week, maybe next Thursday night, to show us the rest of her videos because they're really fascinating what she did and the time she put into them. She should be commended. So thank you, Julie, for all of your testing, and you and I will kind of figure out which ones to show, and we'll show those maybe next Thursday night if that works for you. Otherwise, we can show them Friday night before or after we finish with the testimony. So, okay, Julie says it's always good to listen to other theories. Yeah, you might learn something new. Absolutely, and especially the way people are, diving deep into these phone records and the Apple phone data, and I find it all fascinating because it's all tech. It's sort of like the DNA of tech, right? It's like instead of body DNA, we're getting like proof out of an actual device. I'm sure they weren't thinking about that very carefully that night, right? Because everything happened so fast that you're in panic mode, which is hence why, as lawyers like to say, hence why the phones were ditched, right? It makes perfect sense. Julie says Nagel's blob because she said she saw a 5 to 6 foot blob. So I said, what would that have looked like in the snow? Yeah. And so that's what her experiment was last night. What would a 5 to 6 foot blob look like in the snow? And Julie showed us, and there's no way anybody would have missed that, especially 11 people peeking out of the windows and looking out the doors, and all of them have the same story. They're all looking out the window. Wow, I don't know about you, but that does not sound like a very fun after bar party to me, right? Peeking, just sitting there peeking in and out the windows all night, because that's basically what they were doing from the time they got there until roughly, 11:45, 10 to 1. And that's when they started playing It's Raining Men. And, the whole story about this after bar party is just a farce. All right. So let me put up Brian Albert Jr., because I'm going to run little one out to use the bathroom, and then we can wrap it up tonight with him. We'll see how far our patience gets us, right? Okay, little one, I'll take you out. Just hang on a second. Just hang on. All right, I'm going back to find him. Yes, I know you have to go to the bathroom. You've been a very patient, good boy. All right, let me grab his testimony here. Unless you want to start with Caitlyn. Do you guys want to end the night with Caitlyn, and we'll pick up Brian Jr. next week? Maybe we should do that. Let's do that. Let's end the night with a little bit of Caitlyn. In fact, I have a good one for you, which I enjoy this person a lot, and this will be perfect way for us to end our night. So let me find that for you here. Okay, buddy. Okay, I'm just going to black my camera for 2 seconds because I got to go pull her up. I've got a little of Emily D. Baker and Caitlyn for you here pulled up. I just have to get to it with Puppy trying to get my attention. So let me grab that really quick, because I previewed it a little bit today and I actually really liked it. So I think this might be kind of interesting to watch to end our night. It'll just be a little bit of something a little bit more sassy and a little bit more fun to watch than just us critiquing the NBC footage. So let us take a look at this. Okay, Puppy, I'll take you out.
Good morning. We are back for day,
There we go.
11,
okay?
10 million of the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. It is Tuesday, May 14th.
Okay, guys, I'm going to let this run. I'm going to run the puppy out real quick and I'll be right back. I just
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. It's just starting to slog. Today is a half day in court. When we left yesterday afternoon, they had just done a brief argument in front of the judge about whether or not the defense could essentially impeach or confront the witness on the stand, Caitlyn Albert, with photos of her with Katie McLaughlin. The thing that's different is that Caitlyn Albert didn't distance herself as much from knowing Katie McLaughlin, though she was asked, do you know any of the coverage? Have you been told about anything that's happened in this case, about any of the testimony in this case? And she's like, no. And they're like, who's Katie McLaughlin? She's like, oh, so, and seemed to know that question was coming a bit to me. But she did say we run in the same group of friends. She did say we have done things together in groups, but we don't have a one-on-one relationship, which is fairly consistent with what Katie McLaughlin said after Katie McLaughlin was confronted with a fleet of photos, stacks, if you will, of photos of the two of them together. Those photos were not admitted before the jury. Those photos were used to show the witness and be like, do you see it differently now? We're going to see what happens with that today. The court took that under advisement. Again, I think that these photos will be allowed to be shown to Caitlyn Albert if she distances herself from knowing Katie McLaughlin. I don't think the photos will come in to evidence. They're on a side issue. The judge doesn't want to have a trial within a trial about whether these two know each other beyond high school, how they know each other, how long they know each other. But they do get to ask the witnesses if they have a potential for bias. And, showing up to your friend's dad's house, could that change the way that you respond to a scene? And the prosecution asked Katie McLaughlin, do you often respond to people you're from Canton? And she's like, yes, but that doesn't impact me doing my job. The jury gets to make that decision. We're going to see today what the jury gets shown on this. And then who knows who we get into next. I'm hoping it will be Julie Nagel and her brother, who it seems were outside when Karen Reed and John O'Keefe pulled up to the Albert residence. I'm very interested to hear that testimony. And we only know about that because of Brian Albert Jr.'s testimony yesterday. That was very clear that when he looked out the window, he was kind of looking at where his friend Julie was, and Julie was out talking to her brother in the truck. Does this sound like I'm telling you a story from lunch in junior high? Yes. Yes, it does. This whole trial. Oh my God. So then Julie went outside and she was talking to her brother. And when I was looking outside, then there was this other car there, but I was waiting for Julie to come back inside because it was a blizzard and we were all drinking White Claw and hanging out as one does, which true, as one does. So I'm hoping that we will hear from Julie and her brother to try to get to some semblance of when Karen Reed and John O'Keefe supposedly arrived at the Albert residence. And at some point, we've got to get to the Jen McCabe of it all, because that woman's name has come up in this trial as much as Karen Reed's has, hasn't it? And I'm fascinated. So what we need to do is go to court. And everyone, let me know where you're coming in from, what you're drinking. We've got a little bit of green juice this morning, but don't worry, Dr. B's bringing Starbucks because it's Tuesday. All right, let's go to court. Law nerds. Where's my intro? We need to go. Let's go.
Hey there. I'm Emily D. Baker, the internet's go-to legal analyst, breaking down the legal side of the pop culture and entertainment stories we can't stop talking about. I'm a big fan of the cursey words. I've been a licensed attorney for over
Is Albert back in, please? Is Albert back in, please?
And show resume on the stand. All right, back to trial testimony. So as she walks into the stand, we're going to zoom. The court has the photos that are in controversy to look at. So, here we go. Also, I think I said day 10, day 11. It's day 11.
Good morning, Ms. Albert.
It wasn't in my title, and then I forgot.
Ms. Albert, I'd like to go back to
The days are
a
starting to blur.
discussion of
Katie McLaughlin.
Okay.
Yeah, we figured that was coming.
Yesterday, I asked you a 4-word question, and that question was, who is Katie McLaughlin? Do you recall that question?
I do.
You would agree with me that your response was not, she's a firefighter.
Correct.
Your response was not,
She's someone I went to
she's a
high school
friend.
with.
Correct.
Your response was not, I've known her for years.
Well, I sort of alluded to that when I said that I've known her since high school.
Right.
We just don't know how old you are.
Your response was that she was somebody that you knew in high school, correct?
I said that I went to high school with her and she's my same age. We graduated the same year.
Right.
Yes.
So you referenced
Somebody
high
I used to
school,
know.
correct?
Yes.
All right. You would agree
Go
with
to
me
Yasuga,
that
but I
you've
can't sing
seen
that.
her several times since high school, correct?
Yes.
You have hung out in the same group with her
She said that.
several times since high school.
She said
correct?
that.
Yes.
And you graduated high school in 2014?
Yes.
Jesus, Yannetti, make
It
us
is
all
now
feel old.
2024?
Yes.
She
Your
said that.
contact with Katie McLaughlin has been fairly consistent over the years in that it continued
Have you met
at
Canton?
least until 2021, correct?
I would agree with that, although it was far and few between. But
Is that
throughout the
because-
years, yes.
Do you say that because the photographs are far and few between?
Objection.
Sustained.
All
I
right.
can't stop myself today.
You would
No,
agree
any day.
with me that there was not a 3-year period prior to January 29th of 2022 where you didn't see Katie McLaughlin at all, correct?
A 3-year
I don't
period?
know.
Right.
That's what
I-
Katie McLaughlin said.
I can't say 100% yes to that, but I wouldn't be surprised if I had seen her at some point in time over the past couple of years and before John O'Keefe's passing.
Answered that.
Place that you were in advance?
Not necessarily, but
Ever in those 3 years?
Objection.
The thing is, she said we have a mutual group of friends. So I'm not surprised to see her somewhere because
I call objection on Emily. First of all, the group on the right is not massive. When Emily says they have a massive group going to the beach, I don't consider 8 friends going to the beach massive. And there's only 4 of them, and come on, right? That the whole testimony of Caitlyn and I mean the whole testimony of Katie and now Caitlyn, they were told, they were prepped, do not make it out like you know each other that well. Distance yourself from one another somehow. They both used the same similar line, right? Which was, we went to high school together. This is not going to high school together. I have friends that I went to high school together with that I would tell you about that I barely see, maybe every 5 years at a class reunion. I think they're nice. I like them, but we're not friends. We're not even acquaintances. They were trying to make it out and get us to believe, because they all think we're idiots, that they're just acquaintances. They are not acquaintances. Okay. Now, maybe, obviously they might not be, each other's person like BFF, but a lot of people don't have just one BFF. A lot of people have several good friends, best friends, whatever you want to call them. So yeah, I wasn't really thrilled when I watched this today with Emily saying that it was a massive group of people going to the beach. It wasn't. I don't consider 8 friends. I don't know what you guys do, but I don't consider 8 friends massive in any way, shape, or form. So anyway, okay, I just wanted to put that up. So let's go back and do a little more of Caitlyn and her fuckery disclaimer.
I just think it's a bigger deal as to Katie McLaughlin than it is to her, but they're trying to use her testimony to show that Katie McLaughlin was distancing herself from knowing Caitlyn Albert, not really as to Caitlyn. But she's like, yeah, I'm not surprised to see her there. Like, all right, go off then. But I don't think they are closer than it's made out to be. The distancing of McLaughlin's testimony is the more important point.
Isn't it true?
We'll see if the jury even remembers by this point. We remember because we keep talking about it.
The jury considered all this a distraction, apparently.
You and Katie McLaughlin were at a. Do
you know that?
Yeah. Were you at a baby shower together?
Yes, we did.
You were. Whose baby shower was it?
Oh gosh.
It was a mutual friend of ours.
What's her name?
Her name's Alyssa.
And how many people were
Alyssa's like, leave me the fuck out of all of this.
I can't say for sure. I mean, it was Alyssa's family and a bunch of friends. I can't put a number on it.
The friends all gathered together and took a photo together with the woman having the baby shower, correct?
Objection.
Was there a photo taken?
I believe so.
You were in that photo, correct?
Yes.
Who was standing next to you?
I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, if you saw the photo, would that refresh your memory?
Yeah.
May I approach?
Yes.
I'm showing you what has been marked. Sorry.
She said,
I was going to identify it as S for identification.
She said we were there. I don't remember who else was there.
It's been marked S. Could you take a look at that and look up at me when you're done?
Really? This is where the feed buffers today. Is it just going to be like that today? Good.
Having reviewed that photograph, Ms. Albert, who is standing next to you?
One of my friends is on the left of me and Katie McLaughlin is on the right of me.
Okay. She's right next to you in that photo, correct?
Yes, she is.
That
He
was
didn't
in
say, look at
June
this
of
photograph directly
2021,
enough.
correct?
Yes.
So if somebody testified that you hadn't seen each
That's the
other in
point.
3 years prior to January 29th of 2022, that would be wrong, right?
Objection.
That was that Lolly going, like, did he open his mouth so fast to object that it popped? Did you
I
hear
love
that?
Emily. She's so great.
That was Lolly cracking his jaw, opening his mouth so.
Now, for those of you that have never watched Emily D. Baker, her group of crime watchers, trial watchers, they go into this with a completely open mind, and so does Emily. They go into it as a juror. And she actually says that at the very beginning of the trial, that we are all jury members and everybody's supposed to come in there with an open mind. If you've already got a closed mind, you watch the grand jury, you maybe already made your mind up because you've been watching Aiden and or following in the news, then you wouldn't want to be along for the Emily D. Baker ride, because she stops a lot and chats a lot and informs us about the law, which I really enjoy. I started watching her. I'd already made my mind up, but I watched her anyway because I think she's very comical and she's super knowledgeable. So if you guys want, consider watching her for the second trial, I always like to promote her. So, and we can watch a little bit of her tonight for fair use, but I don't want to use too much of her. So we'll do a little bit more of Caitlyn tonight, and that'll be okay for fair use since we're using it for educational purposes. So let's go back and do a little more tonight with Emily.
Fast. However, the reason he's not going to get maybe into this direct question is because it wasn't super clear. And I'm trying not to go back and watch because it might not be clear for the jury either. But it wasn't clear if they were talking about, and he might have said, if he was talking about whether or not they knew each other or had seen each other 3 years prior to the incident date that she responded to the Albert House, or 3 years prior to testifying. But he's trying to impeach Katie on that. But generally you have to confront Katie with that and saying, if somebody said this other thing, are they lying? It's not that direct. So
she's right next to you in that photo, correct?
That's why
Yes, she
it's
is.
a problem.
That was in June of 2021, correct?
They can call
Yes.
back.
So if somebody testified
Katie
that you
McLaughlin.
hadn't seen each other in 3 years prior to January 29th of 2022, that would be wrong, right?
Objection.
That was
And
hilarious.
with regard to the contact that you've had with her in terms of group events,
Also,
you
it's
would
the
agree with
microphones
me
moving around in court.
that
It's
it
not
wasn't
me.
just day trips that you took with her, correct?
Correct.
You've also gone on road trips with her, correct?
I've gone away on trips that she was with. I didn't drive
didn't
with her
go
or
together.
go with her or invite her, but she has been there. Yeah.
Okay, and what road trips have you taken overnight where you and Katie McLaughlin have been together since high school?
Objection.
Sustained.
You've gone to Maine with Katie McLaughlin, have you not?
Objection.
So we need a time frame, Mr. Yannetti, not just.
He doesn't know.
Since high school, you've gone to Maine
In the last 10
with
years,
Katie
have you gone to
McLaughlin,
Maine?
correct?
Objection.
She's now looking at the prosecutor for the objection.
Did you go to Maine with her?
I did. And the year would have been like 2015 or 2016.
If I suggested it was July of 2016, would that make sense?
That would sound about right. Yeah.
And while you were in Maine,
With this witness, I also don't think she's waiting for Lolly to object. Like some of the witnesses, you can see them looking at Lolly being like, help. I think she's trying not to talk over him because he's moving and he's moving his mic and he keeps objecting. So I think that I don't think she's looking for him to like help her. I think she's trying not to overtalk. And that's probably something she was told before testifying is if I object, wait and let us finish. So it doesn't
7 of you
seem,
in a hot tub together, correct?
as much of an issue to me.
Sustained.
You were in a
He's
hot tub
obsessed
with
with the hot
Katie
tub.
McLaughlin in Maine.
Oh my God.
correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
May we approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
You can tell
Your
she's
Honor,
getting a kick out
look
of all
at
these
this
objections.
photograph. They're in the hot tub. The thing is, she's not distancing herself from it. She's like, yeah, we've been places together in large groups of people. We don't have a personal relationship. If you want to call back Katie McLaughlin and talk to her more about why she said they don't even hardly know each other, then ask Katie. Katie's the one that said,
I mean, maybe our generation's different than this generation, but if you go on a road trip with somebody, an overnight road trip, it's not an acquaintance. These are people you know and are comfortable with. I mean, unless you're on spring break and you're going with your dorm floor and you might not know all of them intimately. They might not all be your bestie friends, but this didn't sound like a spring break trip. It just sounded like a weekend getaway, a bunch of friends. They are more than casual. They are way more than they're trying to lead us to believe they are. And why are they doing that, right? Because who really gives a flying F, right? It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, because who cares if these two know each other? It's a small town. When somebody dies in a small town, the odds are the firefighters may know the victim, the firefighters may know the family, the paramedics may know each other, the doctors, right? So again, unless you have something to hide, these aren't big issues or big deals, but because they're trying to preach the third party culprit and that somebody else hurt John and caused his death, not Karen Reed, not the SUV, then they are pinpointing and kind of nitpicking every little thing. Hang on, I just heard something. Puppy. Okay, sorry about that. I'm back. Puppy grabbed my purse and knocked it down off the chair. I knew I heard something that couldn't be good, right? Anyway, I just think that it was obvious when we watched Caitlyn's testimony like 7 weeks ago that she was trying to completely distance herself and Yannetti was all over it. And now Caitlyn's doing it, but not as much, definitely not as much, but probably because after the disaster of what happened with Katie, she was coached to try to not make it seem like they were strangers, right? But still leaning into, I didn't invite her to go. We were in a huge group, still trying to keep that distance going. So this is really interesting stuff, isn't it?
not sure. I barely know her. Look at that. Damn it. Look at that photograph when he puts it down on the lectern. There are a lot of people in these photos.
You mentioned that you'd been to Maine with Katie McLaughlin in 2016. Where was it in Maine?
I'm not sure the exact town.
Right. Probably 4 hours away?
I'm not sure how long it took to get up there.
It wasn't 10 minutes away.
No.
Right? And it wasn't a half hour.
We've now established the defense believes 4 hours is a road trip.
Correct?
Maybe.
And you drove, correct?
Yes.
How many days did you spend in Maine?
I'm not sure. Maybe 2.
All right. So you were up in Maine over a weekend?
So like an overnight.
Yep.
With Katie McLaughlin, correct?
Yes, as well as a bunch of other friends.
Oh, of course. But the answer to my question is you were with Katie McLaughlin, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
Oh, of course, you know.
How many times have the two of you been to the beach together since high school?
Objection.
Do you know? If you can answer that, go ahead and answer.
I know that we have been to a beach together, but I don't know how many times.
She
I
almost
could guess.
laughed when Yannetti said,
Okay.
Next question, Mr.
You said
Yannetti.
a beach. Does that mean that the two of you only go to one particular beach?
No.
No, you've gone to multiple beaches with Katie McLaughlin, correct?
How do you define which beach is
Not
which
that I
beach?
can remember. I can't remember how many times. I have one memory, but I can't say for sure how many times I've been to a beach with Katie McLaughlin.
The thing is, When
I
you
showed
go
you a
on too
photograph of
long,
the two of you on a beach together in bikinis. Would that refresh your memory?
what do the
Objection.
bikinis have to do with it at this
Christine,
point?
you can show her a photograph.
Thank you. I may approve.
But
Yes.
again, at some point, it's just that's a
Again, I'm showing
massive
S
group of
for
people.
identification, one particular photo.
Yannetti, sometimes
And
people
S.
have large groups of
Take a
friends.
look at that and look up at me when you're done. Does that refresh your memory?
Yep.
It just, some of this stuff feels like more of a reach than it needs to be.
Particular photo that I showed you.
I think
from
it's
S
more
for identification.
important to Katie
What beach
McLaughlin.
was that?
I don't know the name of the beach.
Where was it?
I believe somewhere in the Cape.
And Katie McLaughlin is in that photo, correct?
Yes, along with a bunch of other friends.
Of course, there are other friends, but you.
Miss Tianetti, please no more, of course.
Of course, Your Honor. With
I love
regard
Emily's
to
laugh.
that photo.
Of course, Your Honor.
I think this is the first time we've seen this judge laugh in this trial. I want to hear if the jury's laughing over me laughing, so I'm going to go back. And it's not that he's saying, of course, it's the tone. Of course, there's more people in this photograph.
It's
because
always
now
the
he's
tone with
making a
Nettie,
comment,
right?
not just asking a question. So, of course. And that's what the judge is, no more commentary is really what the judge is saying.
A photo that I showed you from S for identification. What beach was that?
I don't know the name of the beach.
Where was it?
I believe somewhere in the Cape.
And Katie McLaughlin is in that photo, correct?
Yes, along with a bunch of other friends.
Of course, there are other friends, but you.
Miss Tianetti, please no more, of course.
Of course, Your Honor. With regard to
the whole courtroom
that
left.
photo, once again, you are right next to Katie McLaughlin. Were you not right in back of her?
She's in front of me, yes. And the mutual friends that I already said that we have are also in the photo.
Of course. Let me ask you this. Has anybody in this
Jurors, I'm going to strike that, of course.
Has anybody in this courtroom today asked you about the other mutual friends who were there? Did I ask you today whether there were other mutual friends in that photo?
Objection.
Sustained.
You added that to your answer, correct?
Objection.
No, that's fair.
Can you answer that?
Yes.
Who are your college roommates?
Oh, that's, I think,
Objection.
outside this. I think that's outside the scope. Question, is this witness in enforcement or first responders unit? No, this witness is the daughter of the homeowner, Caitlyn Albert. She was at the waterfall. She went back and said happy birthday to her brother. The oddest thing about her testimony to me has been that her boyfriend, Tristan, went home okay, so Caitlyn went to the waterfall with her parents, and then Brian, her brother, was over at their parents' house having some friends over. He was with Julie and not Jessica, someone else. But she left the waterfall with her parents and went back to say happy birthday to her brother. There were more White Claws there after they were there. Tristan went home early because he was going to have to work because it was snowing. So he was going to either like plow or shovel or salt or whatever. Oh, that's right. Sarah, Julie and Sarah. And so her parents' house had like 5 bedrooms and she didn't have to like go home in the snow. And Tristan left the waterfall early because like he was going to have to get up at 3 a.m. to plow. But then somehow he gets up at 1:45 a.m. and goes and picks her up. Which is the oddest part of the whole testimony for me, is that she goes and picks him up. He went home early to go to bed because he had to get up at 3 a.m. So why is he getting up at 1:45 to go pick her up? That's the oddest part to me.
Exactly. That's what we were talking about earlier, right? That just doesn't line up. That doesn't make sense. So he was so concerned about his beauty rest before he had to go out and plow that he left the waterfall early. But yet now in the middle of a storm, when she could stay overnight in a 5-bedroom house with their parents, he comes to get her. But we all know what we think is that they had to get that dog out of there, right? So that's why we think Tristan came back. He was if he ever left at all, right? Like we were saying, it's so hard to know what is truth and what is lie with this many liars. But I find that interesting that Emily kind of agrees with all of us, because this early in on the trial, her and her crew are still trying to keep an open mind, and they haven't told us yet if they are leaning towards innocence or guilt. She doesn't do that for quite a long time. So, all right, let's listen to a little bit more, and then we're going to call it for tonight and finish up next Friday night.
My cat's just knocked something over and it made the loudest noise. We're going to ignore it. We're going to ignore it. We're going to just keep going.
Hear the question.
Who
We're going to keep going.
roommates?
Ignore it.
Oh, yeah, it's sustained.
Yeah, that's too much.
How
He's
many
now trying to get
roommates
into
did you
discovery.
have?
Objection.
Sustained.
Oh, Megan, good to see you. And all of your arms. We don't accept white claw slander here.
When was that?
2015, 2016.
And
No
there were
white claw
two college
slander.
roommates that you and Katie McLaughlin were with, correct?
I had multiple college roommates at that time, and two of them were the mutual friend that Katie and I share.
And in fact, there was an occasion where
Wait, did you knock everything over?
you were in a kitchen with your two
Dr.
college
Beat.
roommates and one other person, correct?
Objection.
Need a time frame or something, Ms. Giannetti?
Or that was around 2016, was it not?
That sounds about right, yes.
And do you recall which college roommates they were?
Objection.
Sustained.
And someone took a photo of you, your two college roommates, and one other person, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
In 2016.
Objection.
Sustained.
He's just fishing at this point for
May we approach?
who her college roommates are, because he can't call the college roommates if he doesn't know their name. It's I think it's a little bit too much, but he's like, I want to get the name of the college roommates just in case I need them later. Again, Dr. B's Dr. B. It's Dr. B. He knocked something over. So they are trying very hard to get into who her college roommates are. Like, Katie was friends with her college roommates. It seems that her college roommates were also people she grew up in Canton with. Okay. Sure.
Yes.
I'm showing you another.
And again, you
photo
can't
from
impeach
Esther
her.
Identification, ma'am. If you look at that. And look
If
up
she
the name
says,
done.
I know these people.
Who's in that photo?
Myself, two of my college roommates, and Katie McLaughlin.
So Katie McLaughlin's the only one in that photo who's not one of your roommates, correct?
Yes.
And was this a situation where she just showed up unexpectedly, like all the other times? You had no idea she was going to be there?
Objection.
That's how friends work.
Ask the
I forgot he said that. You don't really like her that much, do you? Oh, you don't like her either, do you? No.
God, things are being loud on my desk, chat. I'm sorry. I don't know. Any of you that were on sports teams in high school, do you remember everyone that was on your team? Thank
If you
you.
look at the first page and then the second page.
Thank you.
Objection.
Need a time frame or something, Ms. Giannetti?
Or that was around 2016, was it not?
That sounds about right, yes.
And do you recall which college roommates they were?
Objection.
Sustained.
And someone took a photo of you, your two college roommates, and one other person, correct?
Objection.
Sustained.
In 2016.
Objection.
Sustained.
He's just fishing at this point for
May we approach?
who her college roommates are, because he can't call the college roommates if he doesn't know their name. It's, I think it's a little bit too much, but he's like, I want to get the name of the college roommates just in case I need them later. Again, Dr. B's it's Dr. B. He knocked something over. So they are trying very hard to get into who her college roommates are. Like, Katie was friends with her college roommates. It seems that her college roommates were also people she grew up in Canton with. Okay. Sure.
Yes.
I'm showing you another.
And again, you
photo
can't
of
impeach
Esther
her.
identification, ma'am. If you look at that. And look
If
up
she
the name you've
says,
done.
I know these people.
Who's in that photo?
Myself, two of my college roommates, and Katie McLaughlin.
Okay. So Katie McLaughlin's the only one in that photo who's not one of your roommates, correct?
Yes.
And was this a situation where she just showed up unexpectedly like all the other times? You had no idea she was going to be there?
Objection.
That's how friends work.
Ask the question differently. That it's sustained in that.
Thank you, Ronna. Did you
That's how friends
work. By the way, whose kitchen is that?
It was the college house that I lived in.
So your kitchen.
There were
The
multiple
house
people
we were
living
renting,
there.
Yes.
You lived in that kitchen.
Yes.
And
She did not
Katie
live in the
McLaughlin
kitchen.
your kitchen, correct?
Yes.
Who invited Katie that day?
The two mutual friends that I lived with.
Okay. Certainly you didn't invite Katie, correct?
I did not.
Because you're not close friends with her at all, correct?
I am not.
In fact, you don't really like her very much, do you?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
You guys were teammates on the track or cross country team back.
I think that's more relevant because that's odder that Katie McLaughlin left that
I
out.
don't recall that, actually. We could have been. I'm not sure.
I may approach.
Yes.
God, things are being loud on my desk, chat. I'm sorry. I don't know. Any of you that were on sports teams in high school, do you remember everyone that was on your team? Thank
If you
you.
look at the first page and then the second page.
Thank you. Those, I think, came directly from the internet. But I mean, for those of you saying track is a big team, that's fair. Just like, I don't actually remember that. Is she looking for the names? That is a decently sized. I mean, I guess if you asked me everyone that I was in band with, would I remember every single person that was in band with me over 4 years? Maybe
Yes.
not. But would I remember all of the seniors
Having
my senior year?
reviewed those
Yes.
2 pages, does that refresh your memory about your teammate, Katie McLaughlin?
Yes, it does.
And you certainly were teammates in high school, correct?
Yes.
And you would agree with me that that relationship continued in terms of your contact with her all the way up through 2021, correct?
Yes.
Your Honor, I would offer the photos that are in S for identification as full exhibits in this trial at this point.
Objection.
The objection sustained.
They're not coming into evidence.
You should put those back up with the clerk, Ms. Giannetti.
They are staying marked for identification, but they are not coming in as exhibits.
Now,
I don't really
you
quibble with them
testified
not
that
coming
you
in as
knew Brian
exhibits.
Higgins prior to January 29th of 2022, correct?
Yes.
You knew him as a good friend of your father's, correct?
Yes.
He arrived at 34 Fairview Road, your parents' home, on January 29th of 2022 after you got there, correct?
Again, yes, because me and my parents were the first ones inside from what I remember.
Did you see what Brian Higgins drove to get there?
I did not.
You did not see where he parked his vehicle.
I did not.
At some point, you saw him inside the home, correct?
I'm not, after what the judge said yesterday, I'm not surprised that she didn't allow the photos in. Some of them just don't have foundation. So I'm not surprised. She said, I don't remember that we were on the track team together. He was using it to refresh her recollection. And she said, oh, I guess we were on the track team together. The evidence stands, but they don't have the foundation for who took the picture. You know, I'm not bothered that they're not coming in evidence. The point has been made. And if they want to call Katie McLaughlin back and lay foundation for some of those photos of who put them on social media and where the lawyers got them from, then they can do that. But, you know, they don't have to. She said it. The jury will make what they will of it. It will become a side issue. And already kind of has become a side issue. So now we're getting back to what's happening actually the night that we're there.
Yes.
So.
And he made it into the kitchen and dining room area where you were, correct?
Yes.
You agree that at some point, Brian Higgins and your father, Brian Albert, left that area to go to another room, correct?
Yes.
So it's fair to say there was at least some portion of the night when Brian Higgins and your father were out of your field of vision, correct?
I don't agree with that because the room that I had seen them go into has an open doorway and you can see right into the family room that they were in. So I could actually see them in there.
Gotcha. How long were you there when Brian Higgins and your father, Brian Albert, were there?
Inside the family room?
I'm talking from that whole night. When you're at 34 Fairview, how much time lapsed between the time you first saw Brian Higgins and Brian Higgins left the residence?
I can't say for sure. If I had to estimate, I'd say an hour and a half.
Okay. And so your testimony before this jury is for that full hour and a half, there was no time when Brian Higgins and your father, Brian Albert, were out of your field of vision.
Not that I can remember.
I mean, but
Now,
if you're not paying attention to it, how would you remember
Friday,
that?
January 28th, you
Possible.
made plans to go out with your mom, Nicole Albert, your aunt, Julie Albert, and your boyfriend, Tristan Morris, correct?
Yes.
From the beginning of that night, the plan was for Tristan to go home early, correct?
Yes.
And that was because he had to get up early to plow or
This
shovel,
is the
correct?
point I was interested in.
He had to get up really early, correct?
Yes.
The plan was for him to shovel or plow at 3 a.m.?
He was, from what I recall, he was on standby for like 3. It could have been any time after that.
Oh, I see. So it could have been that he had to get up at 3 or maybe a little bit later, correct?
Yes.
And it was for that
But he
reason
picked you up at 2
that when
a.m.
he was at the waterfall with you, he only had a couple of drinks, correct?
From what I remember, yes.
And from the beginning of the night, you knew that it was going to be iffy as to whether he would be able to get much sleep at all, correct?
It wasn't really something we discussed.
Well, the reason he was going home early and only having a couple of drinks was to see if he could catch some sleep before what would be a very difficult work morning, correct?
Yes.
And you knew that in order for him to get any sleep, he couldn't stay at the waterfall very long, correct?
Yes.
And that's why he left early.
Yes, he went home to rest. We didn't speak about whether or not he would be sleeping.
It wouldn't shock you if he tried to go to sleep.
No, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't.
You stayed believing that Tristan was going to try and rest and sleep, correct?
Yes.
And the plan when he left you,
So why didn't you just stay at your parents'
you wouldn't
house?
see him again until after he was done with his plowing that morning, correct?
That's incorrect.
Okay. So is it your testimony that the plan from the beginning was that Tristan was going to drive from Canton to Easton and get some rest?
And then drive
and
back and pick you up?
From Easton
'Cause that's
to
weird.
Canton to pick you up.
Right, because that's
So
weird.
that he could take you back from Canton to Easton? That was the plan?
It may not have been set in stone, but it was definitely spoken about. And then that's what ended up happening. Yes.
Have you ever told anyone that before, Ms. Albert, that the plan from the start of the night was that Tristan was going to make 4 trips total from Canton to
I don't know what that was,
Easton to Canton?
but it was probably a sneeze.
Have you ever told anyone that before?
I don't remember if I mentioned that to anybody.
That was the first time
She
you ever
might
said that
not
just
have
now
been
before this jury. Would
asked.
you agree with that?
But okay.
I believe so.
It sounded like somebody
Almost 2.5
sneezed or yelled
years after January 29th.
in court.
correct?
Correct.
Isn't it true that you decided at 1:45 in the morning that it was important for you to get home?
At 1:45, around that time is when Tristan picked me up, a little bit after that, but I didn't want to get snowed in at my parents' house.
It was important
Why?
for you to leave 34 Fairview, correct?
Where they had a bacon.
I wouldn't say important, but it was something that I wanted to do.
It was
Yes.
important enough for you to leave, correct?
Yes.
And you made the decision to have Tristan drive from Easton to Canton to pick you up, correct?
Yes.
How far is it from Easton to Canton?
From our apartment in Easton to 34 Fairview Road is about 18, 19 minutes.
Okay,
So
and that's
20
when there's
plus
not
minute
a
drive.
Snowstorm outside, correct?
Correct.
Of course, in a major snowstorm, you certainly can't drive as carefree as you can when you're driving in good road conditions, correct?
Right.
And your boyfriend was making that trip multiple times that night.
Sam,
correct?
they have cars.
Yes.
Everybody had just been drinking. The adults all seem to be fine driving. That's a conversation for another day. But the younger adults all arranged for rides. It seems because they were all drinking. So they arranged for rides, which I appreciate. But she went over to see her brother and say happy birthday. She didn't want to get snowed in at her parents' house. The defense is going to argue, isn't it weird that all of a sudden at 1:45 you decide that it's time to go and you need to leave when you could have just stayed and you woke your boyfriend up? It's an odd thing. But she's like, I just wanted to leave. So I don't know.
When Tristan picked you up at 1:45 a.m., did you bring Chloe out of the house with you to take to your apartment?
No.
It's an interesting question.
On January 29th of 2022, you were there at your parents' house from around midnight until about 1:45?
About a little bit after 1:45, yes.
Okay, and during that span of time, almost 2 hours, you never saw anyone pull up outside, correct?
I personally did not.
No. And you personally did not look out the window either, correct?
No, I did not.
And you personally never heard anything out of the ordinary outside, correct?
That is correct.
Right. You never heard any yelling, correct?
That is correct.
No screaming,
Correct.
nothing smashing into anything else,
Correct.
no revving of tires.
Correct.
How do you hear
no
tires
noises
rev?
outside.
Correct.
Nothing attracted your attention.
Me being picky.
Correct.
You never saw any vehicle backup lights.
Correct.
You never saw any red lights outside.
Correct.
You heard zero evidence of anything that would lead you to conclude that there had been some type of car accident outside.
Objection.
Sustained. You can ask it differently, Ms. Tannenbaum.
You didn't hear a car accident.
Objection.
Ask it differently.
What's the objection on that? Did you hear a car accident?
When you left 34 Fairview,
I think we'll be fine to ask.
1:45,
The answer is
what
no.
did you use?
I think I walked out the front door.
And the front door, could I have exhibit 66, Mr. Bates? With the court's permission, may that be
Sure.
displayed?
You guys, I know for those of you on phone, sometimes it's hard to see me. I am smiling because I'm eating breakfast.
A depiction-
Everybody brought their glasses to court lately.
Yes.
Glad to see it.
The front door to your home, there are actually two of them, correct?
Yes.
And when you say the front door, you're referring to the door that's lit up in that photo?
Yes.
You can take that off the screen. I'd like to ask you some questions about what you saw or didn't see within the first couple of seconds while you were stepping outside. Coming out the front door of your house, you would agree with me that your parents' front lawn is directly in front of you, correct?
Yes.
By that time, snow had started to accumulate at 1:45 a.m., correct?
Yes.
Against that white snow, did you see a black baseball cap?
I did not.
As you stepped out of the house, did you see a black sneaker?
I did not.
Did you see 45 pieces of red taillight plastic?
I did not.
No. Did you see one piece of red taillight plastic?
I did not.
Did you see a 6'2" man on your parents' front lawn in front of you?
Objection.
Did you? I did not.
Lolly, why are you objecting
You
to
saw
that?
Nothing unusual.
Why are you objecting to that, Lolly? Your theory of the case is that John O'Keefe is on the lawn before she leaves. So why are you objecting to that? Maybe object to your theory of the case then. Because did she see someone on the lawn or not?
On that front lawn of your parents' home, did you?
I did not.
Now, Tristan had parked in the driveway, correct?
I believe so.
When I say Tristan, I'm referring to Tristan Morris, who was your boyfriend.
Are there more than one
Yes.
Tristan?
As you
Is there more than one? Who, if any, is
is
Tristan?
to the right, correct?
Yes.
And as you're coming out,
I don't think that we haven't heard Julie's testimony yet, so she doesn't know about the Nagel blob yet, Julie, craziest person on earth, because that's coming up pretty quickly, I think. Sarah Levinson and Julie Nagel should be coming up pretty quick. I forgot to look at the lineup of where we're going with this next, but this is a good breaking point for me. I don't want to go too much later tonight because I've got my son's dog too, since he's not home, who needs my attention. And I think it's a good breaking point, because then let me double check how much more he has with her though. Let's see. Let me go. Let me see. Oh, wow. Oh, okay. Interesting. So I thought Brian Jr. was next, but no, I mean, we skipped. Yeah, Brian Jr. was before her. So we have to go back and grab Brian Jr. next Friday. You know what? We're going to finish. She's almost done. So let's just power through here with Emily D. Baker.
out of the house, the driveway's to the left, which makes sense, right?
Yes.
Where in the driveway was Tristan Morris parked?
I don't remember if he was on the left. My guess would be the left side of the driveway, because that would have been closest to me walking out of the house. But I can't say for sure exactly where he was parked in the driveway.
But if it was parked in the driveway, wouldn't you have gone out the other door?
His vehicle, correct?
Yes.
And actually, when I say his vehicle, it was actually your vehicle, right?
Correct.
That was the
Jeep
that you had at that time?
Yes.
I know
And
what
as you
car
were
everybody
walking to
drives.
that vehicle, you would agree with me, there were no obstructions between you and your parents' front lawn, correct?
Correct.
And as you were walking to that vehicle,
Blizzard.
again, no baseball hat, no sneaker, no pieces of red taillight, and no 6'2" man did you see on your parents' front lawn, correct?
Correct.
And there were no, strike that. After you got into the vehicle, you got into the passenger's side
Yes.
because you had been drinking that night, correct?
Yes.
And it wouldn't have made sense for you to drive home to Easton, correct?
Correct.
So Tristan Morris backed his or your Jeep out of the driveway, correct?
Yes.
And the tail end of that Jeep, when he backed out, would have gone toward Cedar Crest, correct?
Correct.
Which would mean that the car
The
was not
headlights
facing
would have
toward
gone
the
across
Chapman Street
the
side,
front yard.
correct?
Yes.
So I just wanted to stop it a second. It took me a minute. My mute button wasn't coming off for some reason. So yes, this is very interesting, Julie, because the test you showed us last night that you did, Come here, buddy. The test that you showed us last night that you did, you had the black Julie Nagel blob laying in such a fashion that when you hit, oh, come here, puppy, that when you lit up the driveway, it was you could clearly see it. So we'll definitely have to show your tests again next week. But yeah, she's almost done with her testimony. So we'll just finish this up tonight. Then we can go back and do Brian Albert Jr. next Friday, and we'll be able to do Tristan. I think that's Tristan who's up next. We should be able to do the young adults were all like right in a row, and their testimonies weren't really super long. So we might be able to do quite a few of them next Friday Night Lies. Anyway, I just wanted to tell everybody that we'll re-show Julie's test if you didn't watch last night. And then the other tests that she's doing, we will show those next week because they're very interesting, very, very telling.
And
Hi,
that
George.
would mean that
Hi.
your Jeep being driven by Tristan would have driven directly by your parents' full property line, correct?
Correct.
And you were on the passenger's side of the car, correct?
Correct.
The passenger's side was closest to your parents' front lawn as you were driving away, correct?
Yes.
And you drove past the front lawn, correct?
Yes.
You drove past the flagpole, correct?
Yes.
And
see
in all
nothing.
that time from when Tristan Morris pulled out of the driveway and drove right by your parents' front lawn, you never saw anything of the things that I previously asked you about, correct?
I did not, but I also was not looking.
You saw no baseball hat, no sneaker, no pieces of red plastic. and
She's like,
no
I didn't see it.
6'2"
Called
man,
peripheral
correct?
vision.
Correct, but I also was not looking out my window.
Okay, let me ask you this. Did anybody in this courtroom ask you if you were looking out your window?
Objection, Your Honor.
Sustained.
That was an answer to a question that nobody asked you, correct?
Right.
Objection.
Sustained.
Now, at this point, you would agree with me that you've essentially circled your parents' front lawn, right?
No.
Yes.
Yeah, you came out the front door and were facing
George.
the front lawn, correct?
Correct.
Then you're walking to the left, which means that the front lawn is to your right, correct?
Correct.
Then you're backing up out of the driveway, which means the front lawn is still to your left, correct?
Correct.
And when Tristan pulls the car such that
There's our sirens.
when Tristan Morris
So
pulls the
eerie
car
to
such
hear
that the
those.
car is now operating parallel to your front lawn, now the front lawn's to your right, correct?
Correct.
George wants all the attention this morning.
And with regard to all of that time that you were circling that
Covered in
front
fluff.
lawn, you never saw anybody or anything out of the ordinary on that lawn, correct?
I did not.
And you also didn't see any tire tracks in the snow, did you?
Not that I can remember.
Let me have a moment.
Yes.
The thing that's interesting is the defense either is she lying or did she not see anything?
Further questions? Thank you.
It goes to
Okay.
their theory of the case that
Really?
she didn't see anything. We'll see.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Their point is he wasn't there yet.
He definitely wasn't there yet.
Turning your attention back to yesterday, you were asked some questions about Courtney Proctor, is that right?
Yes.
You are floofy.
You were asked about whether or not you met her kids, and you said once. Can you explain that?
From what I can remember, I forget exactly where I was, but my aunt Julie Albert had pulled up in her car and I was talking to her, and she had the 2 kids in her back seat. I think she may have been babysitting them. I didn't ask for specifics, but she rolled down the back window and that's when I met the 2 kids, and that was it.
About how many years ago was that?
I can't say for sure, but definitely like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe.
The one time while they were in the backseat of a car for a couple minutes years ago.
Yes.
How do you remember that then?
Prior to the day that he came in, or that he conducted an interview with you?
Never.
Now, as you were walking into the house, your testimony is that you saw Caitlyn Albert walking out of the house. Is that correct?
Correct.
Without getting too much into it, as far as photographs of you on a high school track team, that would have been sometime prior to your graduation of 2014, correct?
Yes.
And about how many people were on your track
I
team?
can't hear Lolly.
Over 30, maybe. About 30.
Now, when you were
But you
at-
remember meeting the kids
at
once.
Fairview Road on the early morning of the 29th, your father, Brian Albert, and Brian Higgins were out of the room, being the kitchen and the dining area, for some period of time, correct?
Correct.
And about how long period of time are we talking about?
Minutes. I would say at most, maybe like 5 minutes. At most.
Now, you were shown a drawing, essentially, in Exhibit 66 of your parents' house at 34 Fairview Road, up on the screen just now.
Yes.
Have you ever seen that before?
That exact photo, I don't believe so.
Do you know whether or not that was even a photo, or would you be surprised if that was some sort of drawing or rendering of the house?
Yeah, I can't say for sure where that came from or what it is. I don't believe I've seen it before. Could you rephrase the question? Sorry.
No, that's fine. My other question.
Ma'am, it's not you, it's him.
In that particular drawing, that there were lights on your.
And he added an extra R to draw, so
I did notice that, yes.
Recall whether or not those lights.
It's distracting.
Were on, or those lights even exist at the time that you were exiting the house on January 28th.
I don't recall. Yeah, I can't say for sure if those lights were on.
Now, you were asked some questions about exiting the house and coming over to Tristan's car, getting in, your car, the Tristan.
So we've heard that sometimes the light bulbs
and
just
then
don't
backing
even
out the
work.
driveway and driving away. At any point in time, did you look over to the unlit area on the left side of your parents' property near the flagpole?
Objection.
Form the question differently, Mr. Mullen.
When you walked out the front door, where was your attention directed?
When I walked out the front door, I recall somewhat looking down, trying to make sure I didn't slip. The ground was completely covered with snow at that point. And then my direction was towards Tristan's car, so to the left. Then once I got in the car, I was turned again to the left, speaking with him for the majority of the first couple minutes of our car ride back home to Easton.
Was that
Let's remember this for next week, because earlier in the chat box, one of you mentioned that Tristan slipped up when he was crossed by Yannetti and mentioned something about grass. And now Caitlyn just said, because the ground was completely covered with snow, which I'm pretty sure they were all prepped to say, like, whenever you get a chance, say how much snow was on the ground, right? Definitely. So let's remember that for next week.
conversation about how you woke him up to come pick you up? Just curious.
The brick steps, correct?
Yes.
Brick steps are covered in snow at that point.
Yes.
Do you recall what you were wearing on your feet? Were they high heels, flats?
I think I had high heel like boots on, something of that nature.
You're walking down the brick steps that are covered in snow in high heel boots, correct?
Yes.
Were these
Walking
boots
over to
made
the car and getting in the passenger side,
for
correct?
walking?
Yes.
And at any point in time, did you, at any point in time in any of this sequence, have any reason to look over to the front yard area of your parents' home in the area of the platform?
I did not.
And then you get in the car and you're driving away and you're talking to Tristan, is that
Yes,
correct?
or the boots
Yes.
with the fur.
And so Tristan is driving, you're in the passenger seat, is that correct?
Yes.
So you're looking at him but away from the front lawn as you're driving, correct?
Yes.
Nothing further.
Very briefly, Judge.
Okay.
Maybe you just testified.
Ask if they were the boots with the fur.
The one time that you saw Courtney Proctor's kids, they were with
Minutes.
your aunt Julie Albert, correct?
Yes.
For minutes. You remember them,
And you
but
just
not
testified
girl on your
that
track
That
team.
was about 2 or 3 years ago, correct?
That was an estimate. I can't say for sure, but yes.
It wasn't 10 years ago.
No.
2 or 3 years ago, to right now it's May 14th of 2024. 2 years ago would be May 14th of 2022.
We're almost done with this witness.
Yes,
3 years ago would have been May 14th of 2021, correct?
correct.
It's consistent with Julie. She said a little bit after 2020.
Okay, you are all set, Miss Albert.
I
Thank
didn't
you.
hear him say I'm done, but that's
Okay, so Tristan is up next for next. Well, we'll do Brian Albert Jr. and do Tristan. So that'll be good. That'll be a good Friday Night Live next week, and we may even, depending on how much we decide to listen to with Brian Albert Jr., how much of the Lally we want to put up with versus the cross. We may even get to who's up next after Tristan. We'll see. We'll see how next Friday night goes, right? Well, thanks everybody. I just really have enjoyed these 7 weeks of Friday Night Lives. I'm really happy that I just kind of decided to do this out of the blue because I've been fascinated with this case, as have you. And it's really interesting to go back and just really fine tooth comb this. I mean, the first time you watch the trial, you're kind of in shock and horror, as Jen said, because you just can't believe it. Like the fact that the jury thought that these were all distractions, the way they were trying to, question these witnesses to get them to try to slip up or to accentuate how sketchy they really are. And that the jury thought it was a distraction just blows my mind. I can't fathom it. I just can't fathom it. And I don't know, maybe I've got unconscious bias because I believe that she didn't do this so long ago now. So maybe that's part of it, right? We're all watching it through the lens of, I believe Karen's innocent. There's no way that this happened. And so when Katie, but I don't know about that though, because, Katie was so early on. So it's not like we were in trial shock yet, or by the time you get to the last ones and you start to feel like everybody's lying. Katie was pretty early on, and most of us all didn't buy it, and we thought she was being evasive and downright trying to cover her friendship with Caitlyn. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of the jury thinking that these tactics were a distraction when they were actually tactics to draw out the liars and to kind of really show how they are definitely being evasive and lying. So I don't know. It's always something. But before we close out tonight, so next week we're going to take a look at our Julie, craziest person on earth, and we're going to take a look at her home videos that she's made, and this is going to be a great. And then we're going to go back and do Brian Albert Jr. and then Tristan, and then we'll see if we can fit in anybody else. But I wanted to read you somebody was nice enough to post this today on Twitter X, and now I don't remember who posted it, but I'll let you know next week so I can give them credit. Now comes the defendant, Karen Reed, Miss Reed, and respectfully moves this honorable court pursuant to Article 12 of the Massachusetts Declaration of Rights, the 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution, and Mass R. Crim P. to dismiss all charges with prejudice on the basis of extraordinary governmental misconduct. Section U.S. Constitution, v. U.S. Constitution, blah, 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 blah. A prosecutor may strike hard blows, but he is not at liberty to strike foul ones. It is as, oops, I missed that part. Let's see here. It is as much his duty to refrain from improper methods calculated to produce a wrongful conviction as it is to use every legitimate means to bring a just one. And that's kind of like what Vinny was saying today. Or it might have been yesterday. He was talking about how the prosecution also has, an ethical and moral standing that they shouldn't want to see someone convicted who didn't do it. So if it's starting to look like they're wrong and that the person that they are prosecuting didn't do it, or there's all this reasonable doubt, then they should be erring on the side of caution and maybe saying, hey, we need to end this, right? So it's not about winning. It's not about, we have to win the trial. It's not a game, right? This is someone's life. So it says, throughout the course of these proceedings, Ms. Reed has been severely prejudiced by the Commonwealth's pervasive misconduct. The Commonwealth has suppressed discoverable and exculpatory video surveillance footage from the Canton, it's hard to read this, from the Canton Police Department. It has provided piecemeal disclosure of some footage, most of which was disclosed after the trial started. So that was the first page of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So I'll see if I can get the rest of the document and we'll take a further look at it. And then it says that here's the conclusion. For the above reasons, Ms. Reed respectfully requests that this honorable court grant defendant's motion to dismiss for extraordinary governmental misconduct with prejudice, although dismissal is required and appropriate under the circumstances. In the alternative, the defense seeks and is entitled to an evidentiary hearing on these issues attended to the Brady violations and juror interference. The evidentiary hearing will require testimony from a number of witnesses, including but not limited to ADA Lally, ADA McLaughlin, ADA Brennan, Lieutenant Tully, Chief Rafferty, Trooper Proctor, Sergeant Bukkake, Colleen Crawford, other members of the CPT, and Lieutenant Fanning, respectfully submitted for the defendant, Karen Reed. So we'll see what happens with that, right? So that maybe she'll rule on that and the other motions that she was talking about ruling on. Is she going to punish Yannetti and Jackson? Is she going to give them a slap on the wrist, or is she going to give them sanctions, or is she going to kick them out of the courtroom? How bad will those penalties be? And is she going to let ARCA testify? So there is a lot that's going to happen next week. And March 5th, I believe, is the case to only have her to not for double jeopardy, right? But for is it not the state, right? The state court of Massachusetts, or is it, did they take that federal? I don't know, guys. There's been so much information with this case the last 2 weeks, but that's March 5th. I know that for sure, unless that changes, right? So this also came up today, which I found interesting, that I found on Twitter X. Someone put up this meeting, and the meeting is with Jennifer and Matthew McCabe. And this was with Lynn Beeland, Norfolk DAO. Detective Lieutenant Brian Tully is who it's from. And then subject, meeting with Jennifer, Matt McCabe. On May 10th, 2024, Jennifer and Matthew McCabe arrived at the office of the Norfolk District Attorney's Office. Jennifer was provided a copy of her grand jury testimony regarding Commonwealth versus Karen Reed. Matthew was provided a copy of his testimony. They read the transcripts in a conference room and returned the documents. Jennifer requested to listen to her 911 call to Canton Police on January 29th, 2022. I played the audio file. Jennifer and Matthew requested to watch the Canton Police cruiser camera video that depicts them both on the morning of January 29th, 2022. I played the portion of the cruiser camera that depicts the McCabes on that date. What the heck is that about? When was Matt McCabe ever on the scene in a, do you guys remember that? I don't remember in the first trial ever seeing him on a dash cam video. This is weird. Then this was from part of the hearing. Question: it sounds like a pretty big meeting. Answer: I wouldn't call it a big meeting. It was what, 5 of them? Question: 5 of them and then you, right? Answer: my daughter Allie came with me also. Question: the meeting is getting bigger. Anybody else? Answer: no, we both went. Question: was Allie in the room when you were? So when she testified, she didn't say anything about Matt coming with her, but yet here's the letter. It's a memo to First Assistant District Lynn Beeland from Detective Lieutenant Brian Tully. So there's a big fat lie that we'll be able to call out when we do Jen McCabe's testimony, right? And Matt McCabe's, because I don't remember if he talked about attending this meeting or not. But man, it's just one thing after another. And then the last thing I want to share was from Joe Flipperhead that I found today. The MSP wants you to believe that from 3:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m., the time MSP first saw Karen Reed's SUV till the time the search was over, they didn't take one single photograph of the shattered taillight. And then he writes, explain that one. And I know all of us have said that all along. That is completely against police procedure, by the way. You always take photos. It's just insane to me. How do you go and do everything they did with that vehicle and not take one single photo? I mean, that should cause the jury to pause. That's a major problem. That's a major problem. And that should have every jury member's ears just kind of tweaked and burning. How are you conducting a police investigation? How are you impounding someone's vehicle and you're alluding that there's a cracked taillight, which is your evidence for a homicide, for a manslaughter charge, and you don't take a single solitary photo until it's all the way back in your Sally port and after you've had it there for a while, which gave them plenty of time to break it. I mean, come on, right? This is so suspect. It's just utterly ridiculous. All right, let me go back and grab a few of Julie's chats here before we close out the night. Let's see here. She says, I don't understand why they're saying snow on the ground versus grass. Are they trying to make it snow more than it did? Yeah, I really think they are. They want there to be more snow than there actually was. That's why they're constantly pushing it and having all the witnesses talk about it. That's because they want to use that as an excuse why 11 people didn't see John laying in the yard, that he was already covered in snow, which to me is virtually impossible at between 12:30 and 10 to 2. There's no way he would have been completely covered in snow. And oh, this is the one where they found out about, oh yeah. Yep, they found the meeting, exactly, about the meeting. But I thought he was by himself. Oh, you thought Matt was by himself, Julie? Yeah, I'm so confused. Exactly. I'm so confused. There's like 8 narratives per person, right? Because there's so many of their testimonies walk over each other and don't align. And then she said, the Dighton, yeah, the Dighton video. That's the key right there. Exactly. Yep. So Julie said, that reminds me, the Dighton video is key, unlocks everything. Yeah, I mean, well, that and everything else. So I want to show you one more thing before we close out tonight. And we are at over our 3-hour mark. As typical, we go over. So I didn't mean to do this, but I accidentally did this. I went to visit Kara the other day because I was going on the site visit to the Cabbage Patch to see where Jason passed away and to see if I could find the axe mark in the bar, which I did find. If you want to go watch our update Wednesday night that Karen and I did about Jason Veach, her husband, we did find the axe mark in the bar, and we've been listening to the witness testimonies, which is just insane. Poor Jason. So her prairie dogs, she has 4 pet prairie dogs. They are friendly, she says. And I've always liked prairie dogs, and I didn't even know people kept them as a pet. So she gives me the prairie dog, and I'm holding it up like this next to my chest, and it's cooing and making silly little prairie dog noises. I'm having so much fun, and I'm petting it, and it's loving it, and I go to put it down. Then I go sit on the couch like maybe 10 or 15 minutes later, and this whole time the prairie dog's walking around. She has him out of the cage. He should be used to me a little bit by now, right? He let me hold him, and I petted him. So I'm sitting on the couch, and I reached down to give him another pet, and he grabbed onto me. I'm going to try to show you what it looks worse today than in this picture, but he bit me 3 times, the red one in the middle, and then the little bit, and then there's another one to the left. And I wish I could show this to you now. It's hard to get it up to where you can actually see it, but there's my 3. There we go. Now you can see it, because it actually looks almost redder today than it did 3 days ago. But I have claw marks and bite marks on my arm from a prairie dog. And so I thought, you've got to be kidding me. So I just mashed together my scratch marks and my bites. Now remember, this is like a 3-pound prairie dog, where John was bit by a 90-pound German Shepherd, right? So I just had to show you guys this. It was completely on accident. I did not purposely try to compare my bites to John's taillight bites, but I put something up on Twitter, and I said, riddle me this. Is this a friend's prairie dog or my friend's taillight? And so these are my taillight bites, and they hurt. I mean, when he got me, man, did that hurt. And it still hurts a little bit today. But anyway, I had to show you that. That was my experiment that was not intended, but I'm kind of glad it happened, because it's just, there's so many things in this case that close the door on Karen hitting John with their car. Science, physics, the botched investigation, the evasive behavior from every witness that we've seen so far. And we have so many more to go, and we know they are all evasive, and we know many of them lied, because now their testimony is walking over each other and contradicting each other. And then John's arm, there's no way that's from tail light. There is just no way. And then he doesn't have any other bruises below the neck, no other broken bones. There's just so many things we could list on and on and on that, like Julie just said, is the key and unlocks everything. It's everything unlocks everything in this case, right? It's just so surreal. So next week is going to be huge because there will be either there'll be decisions or things will get put off. It's going to be a wild ride again next week. And just like I said yesterday, nothing else can happen this week, right? And then today we find all these Twitter posts and social media posts of these great content creators out there who are content creating via social media, not live streaming, but they're coming up with more evidence all the time, looking closer, digging deeper. And now I can't wait to go watch what Lana has up her sleeve. And then that other post that I told you I saw as well earlier in the night, talking about, was Matt actually in the kitchen? And was Matt the one who Googled house? Wouldn't that just blow your mind? I mean, I just keep waiting that every day one of our armchair quarterbacks, one of our detectives, and that could be one of us, or it could be anybody who's following this case, is going to come up with the one thing that people are missing that's going to blow the lid off of it. And it's going to cause somebody to finally talk. Honestly, I have to tell you, after the trial was over, I always thought it would be Sarah Levinson. I really always believed that Sarah Levinson, because I really felt sorry for her. She just looked so wounded. When we do her testimony, I'm not going to enjoy that very much. And I really don't want anybody saying one bad thing about her, because I think she was completely an innocent victim in all this. She just happens to be friends with Brian Jr., happened to be there that night. I could tell that girl was not well. And I hope she's doing better now. But I always thought if somebody was going to crack, it was going to be her. That's what I always thought. But there is still the possibility that if it all happened in the basement, right, there is still a possibility that Sarah didn't know what happened. I think somehow they had to have brought Julie into it, because she's just, when we do her testimony, she's just so dark and snarky and mean. And I have a hard time believing that she doesn't know. But I don't know. Maybe if it happened in the basement, maybe they didn't see it, and maybe they don't think anybody in the house did it, right? I don't know. What do you guys think? Yeah, it's going to be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah. And I think Judge Bev even said, I'm leaving Friday open, right? I think she said, I'm even leaving Friday open. So this is going to be like a full week. So I'll probably live stream some of it. I don't know if I'll live stream every single day, but I'll live stream some of it. So if some of you want to come in and join me and chat, that'd be great. Or just watch it back on the replay with me and whoever is live, who's ever chatting with me live. That way we can go back and look at it ourselves. I don't have to worry about getting a strike for improper use or fair use. I mean, I'm usually very careful about fair use, but I like watching it. So I might as well, as long as I have this platform, I might as well live stream it, and then we can chat about it, whoever's available to chat. And then Julie says, is that this? Yeah, I think it is. I think it's Tuesday, Wednesday. And then she said Thursday and Friday if we need it. So I think they're planning on needing it. That's just my guess with everything that they've got to decide and that is going to go down. I don't know what you guys think. Julie says, I think it's Dighton. There are 3 things in that video that show a completely different tale. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that is that could be the one that breaks it, even though the other ones should break it. They're just not for some reason, because nobody wants to buy into the dog bites except for all of us that believe it. And nobody wants to give Dr. Russell the credit she deserves, which I don't understand, because that woman is amazing. She's had an amazing career. I mean, she was a police officer when women were not police officers. She was a doctor, ER doctor. She's amazing. She's testified in court. She's seen, what did she say? Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dog bites. So I don't get why people are so against her. It doesn't add up to me. And then, then you've got the science with the ARCA guys, the physics of how there's just no way that your elbow can shatter a tail light. It's just inconceivable. So it's going to be a wild week, guys. You all better take off this weekend and just decompress. Try not to do too much Twitter or social media or talk about the case too much. Try to take a break mentally from it and have a good weekend, because next week is going to be loaded and crazy. So I think that's everything that we wanted to cover tonight and more. So Julie, Craziest Person, we'll look forward to seeing your home videos next week. We'll look forward to recapping about everything that's going on Thursday and Friday. We'll probably use Thursday, and then we'll do Friday Night Lives like we always do, but we'll use Thursday to recap what's been happening in the week. Wednesday, I'm going to have an update with Kara, and we're going to finish listening to the audio of all the interviews with the detective, which were just so bizarre. And I mean, the aggressor who brought that hatchet into the bar, he actually admitted that he did, but it took almost 20 minutes. He lied to the officers for the first 20 minutes, and then he finally admitted it. And then he admitted that he slammed the hatchet down on the bar and was warning Jason to be quiet and quit being so aggressive. And then he admits that, that he actually hit Jason with it because Jason attacked him and tried to get the hatchet away from him. So he admitted all that to the detectives, but yet no charges. The case is closed. It's turning into a more of a shit show by the day as Karen and I listen to these interviews with the witnesses. So she'll be back next Wednesday, and then Thursday we will cover more of Karen Reed and what's going to happen next week. It's going to be crazy. So thank you, everyone. I really appreciate it that you follow our channel, Social Change Warriors, where we are standing for victims of crimes, standing for justice, standing for their families. And in the case of the 2 cases here in Florida, we're actually doing a little groundwork with police reports, going to meetings at the sheriff's offices, making phone calls on behalf of Michelle for Where is Sarah Ebersol, and for Kara for Justice for Jason Beach. So thank you for supporting Social Change Warriors. I really appreciate it. And I will put up my email, contact info. We actually have a Cash App now, but it is only for program costs. So, I mean, I'm talking about dollars, like $1 contribution will go a long way. A $5 contribution. I don't want to see anything crazy, because I would just like to cover the program costs this much now going forward. But we are going to remain a nonprofit, and I don't want to be paid whatsoever for this. This is my passion, my volunteer work. So I'll put up that contact info for you while our song's playing us out tonight. And I thank you all so much again for being here. And it's just us, and we are the Justice Seekers, Social Change Warriors. Good night, everyone.
They try to silence the truth we shout, but we're still here, we're still calling out. Corruption hides behind a badge and name. We light the fire, expose the shame. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us, we're a movement wide. Together we rise, won't run nor hide. The stories echo, the pain runs deep. For stolen lives we can't just weep. Elected power, but their hearts are cold. We'll bring the truth, let it be told. We're justice seekers, we'll fight the fight for every voice lost in the night. My life mattered is the cry we sing for the ones they tried to bury within. It's just us. Justice seekers will fight the fight. The heroes undo the harm. Calling out corruption, we'll stand tall for justice and truth.